Crap, not only has the terrifying old man not left, he even came to this place. With his strength, he can definitely gain huge benefits in this emperor tomb. If he takes away everything, wouldn't our trip here be wasted? At that instant, Chu Feng hiddenly cursed. He didn't believe that the black-clothed old man would give him any benefits, even if he were to get any in the emperor tomb. Even if he truly did give him some of the so-called reward, it would certainly not be anything too precious. After all, the two of them didn't know one another, and they met only by chance. He didn't owe him anything, so he had no need to give him any benefits. But right now, Chu Feng could also not say anything. He could only feign ignorance and continue going forward with the people from the Jiang dynasty. At first, it was still good. Everything was normal. They only met a few evil spirits on the way, but they were all killed by them. As they walked, they had unstoppable might. Wait. However, suddenly, the monstrous monkey king who was walking at the very front stopped its forwarding steps and spoke. "Something's wrong. What's the matter?" Hearing those words, everyone became nervous and asked puzzledly. There should be both guardians and obstructions in this emperor tomb. Yet on the road, we have only met guardians but not any restrictions or obstructions. The monstrous monkey king said, "Senior, could it be that you mean someone has come to this place before us and have already broke the obstructions in this place?" The emperor asked. "That's right. That possibility is very high." The monstrous monkey king said, "That shouldn't be possible, right? If it is truly like so, some traces of destruction would at least be left behind. But on the way here, I haven't seen any signs of things being broken." The emperor doubtfully said, "If that person has extremely powerful strength and also grasps extremely skilled spirit formation techniques, he could avoid the detection of the guardians and not leave any traces of destruction. Think carefully. Many of the things guarding this place are evil spirits. These things are innately vicious. They even consume and refine their own species and kill each other. But on the way, the evil spirits we met had different strengths, both weak and strong. However, they were orderly guarding in a single area and did not kill one another. This only states one thing. It's that the barricades before separated them, and only because of that did it force them to guard in one place with discipline. Right now, the barricades have been destroyed. However, they still do not know. Thus, they continue guarding in their own places with order. The monstrous monkey king explained this. At that instant, some people started to become uneasy because the words the monstrous monkey king said were indeed reasonable. With the evil spirit's nature, if there wasn't a special barricade separating them, it would not be possible for them to guard in their areas with control. They should definitely be flipping the heavens already. Senior, you must be thinking too much. The strength of this Emperor Tomb's master is unfathomably deep. The methods he grasped may not be comprehensible by us. Perhaps he already laid barriers which separates evil spirits, restricts only evil spirits, and are undetectable by us. After the emperor spoke, everyone nodded their heads again and felt that it made sense. After all, people were suspecting that the master of this tomb was the divine body 10,000 years ago. There were many opinions regarding the rumors of that person, but not a single one of them wasn't strange, mystical, and mysterious. Besides, the methods of a martial emperor was indeed not something they could understand. I hope it is like so. The monstrous monkey king didn't bother arguing with the crowd. It curled its lips and didn't say much more, continuing to lead the road forward. There is reason in the monkey king's words. If you are careful, you can steer a 10,000-year-old ship. Everyone, it is better to be a bit more careful. Just at that time, the dynasty's old ancestor spoke. After he spoke, everyone couldn't help nodding their heads. After all, no matter if it was strength or position, that person was superior to them. Other than the monstrous monkey king, it was likely that no one dared to disobey his words. At that instant, only Chu Feng understood in his heart that the monstrous monkey king was correct. If no accidents happened, the black-clothed old man should have already broke into the emperor tomb before them. And there were two possibilities why the black-clothed old man only broke the obstructions, but not kill the guardians. First, he didn't want to let those people know he arrived at that place. It would also be why he sent a mental message to Chu Feng and didn't grandly show himself. Second, he intentionally wanted to use the guardians to stop Chu Feng and the others, and wanted to make Chu Feng and the others know the danger and retreat. But no matter which point it was, Chu Feng felt that he couldn't tell the crowd about the black-clothed old man because if he did, everyone would definitely retreat as they knew their limits. However, Chu Feng still didn't want to give up because, as long as he remembered the Z family members' faces and remembered that Z Ling was still waiting for him in the Z family, he impatiently wanted to become stronger, so he did not want to miss out the chance to go search the Emperor tomb. Thus, Chu Feng didn't say anything. As if he was unrelated to everything, he walked forward with the crowd. But other than the guardians which got stronger and stronger, there was no gain. Only until they carefully walked 100 full miles in the vast and seemingly edgeless Emperor tomb did good change appear in front of them. In front of Chu Feng and the others, a majestic structure appeared. The structure was a strange statue of a huge bird. Its appearance was like a peacock's, but it was more beautiful than a peacock, more overbearing. And at the entrance of the strange and grand structure, secret skill, the only awaiting for the fated, was written there. Secret skill. It is indeed a secret skill. At that instant, everyone was surprised and joyed. After all, secret skills were like legends. They were priceless treasures, things that could only be met by chance and not searched for. But even though everyone was extremely excited and endlessly drooled for secret skill, not a single person dared to step in without permission. They involuntarily cast their gazes towards Chu Feng and the dynasty's old ancestor who was next to him. It was because everyone knew that if the secret skill was going to pick one of them, the one who had the greatest chance was Chu Feng. After all, he currently already gained the approval of 2 secret skills. Besides, at the gate of the strange but special structure, it was already very clearly stated that it awaited only for the fated. And clearly, Chu Feng was that fated one. All of you stay here. I will go in with Chu Feng. The old ancestor of the dynasty spoke. No, I will accompany my brother. However, the monstrous Monkey King immediately refused. Monkey King, the 2 of us are the only Purple Cloak World spiritists here. One must stay behind, and one will go in. If something unexpected truly happens, at least there will be one person who can safely bring everyone back. And in terms of cultivation, I'm still a bit stronger than you. If there is truly some danger inside, I believe that I will be able to handle it better than you. It will be another layer of protection. The dynasty's old ancestor seemed to know what the monstrous Monkey King was worried about, so he spoke to explain. HMPH, you make it sound nice, but what if you scheme for the secret skill and secretly attack my brother? The monstrous Monkey King did not believe him. Ho, if you truly have such thoughts, then I won't argue with you. Since you have such distrust in me, it's fine that you go in with Chu Feng. I can guard outside with the crowd. The dynasty's old ancestor shook his head while smiling. Monkey bro, I believe Senior Jiang will not harm me. Don't worry. Just at that time, Chu Feng spoke. He had to speak because of the cooperation relationship between him, the monstrous Monkey King, and the Jiang dynasty. If at a time like this, some conflicts started to appear, it would definitely create detrimental effects and harm their cooperation in the future. Seeing that, the monstrous Monkey King didn't feel it was too good to say much more. So it nodded and said, okay then, since my brother agrees, I won't say any more. 5th brother, I will go in with you too. If there are truly some dangers inside, we can look after each other if we join powers. Just at that time, the Supreme Elder, who had the highest age in the Jiang dynasty, spoke. Although his position was inferior to the old ancestor, his seniority was larger than him, being the elder brother of the old ancestor. That's fine. The old ancestor also agreed. His elder brother had been living for so many years, tossing aside his strength and not talking about it. His battle experience could be said to be extremely abundant, with his elder brother accompanying him. If they met with any troubles, things would be quite a bit easier. Quickly after, Chu Feng, accompanied by the dynasty's old ancestor and the supreme elder, walked into the strange but special grand structure. Not only was the special structure's outer appearance strange, the internal decorations were very strange as well. After many lefts and rights, Chu Feng and the others finally walked to the important area. At that very instant, what appeared in front of their eyes was a vast circular palace. On the surrounding walls of the vast palace, there were murals made by special materials, and for every mural, a unique bird was carved. Doubtlessly, the beautiful and overbearing bird was called the vermilion bird. As for the content of the murals, they were about the vermilion bird battling different types of monstrous beasts, and with none of them ending up with defeat. To sum it up, every single mural was depicting the powerful strength of the vermilion bird. In the core area of the palace, there was even a 10-foot-tall statue. It was also a vermilion bird, but the statue could absolutely be said to be the work of ghosts and gods, being vividly carved. In addition, a special spirit formation was bestowed upon the statue. It was surrounded by layers of flame-like brilliance and seemed extremely divine, as if it wasn't a statue but truly a vermilion bird. Chu Feng, I believe that the secret skill is sealed within this statue. After I destroy this seal, it will be up to you. The dynasty's old ancestor smilingly said to Chu Feng, "Don't worry, Senior Jiang, I will do my best." Before coming to this place, they had already drew up a complete plan. It was to first search for the secret skill at the entrance and let Chu Feng subdue it. But before subduing it, Chu Feng was to first extract some information about the emperor, tomb from the secret skill to allow them to more easily go deeper in. Seeing that, the dynasty's old ancestor smiled and didn't hesitate as well. He walked up and started to lay an opening spirit formation. After a moment of laying, a vast purple-colored spirit formation was condensed out. Break! After finishing the spirit formation, the dynasty's old ancestor explosively yelled. The vast purple-colored formation was like the eruption of a volcano. Layers of purple-colored bodies of light were sprayed out, interweaving with the red-colored aura surrounding the statue, and was actually engulfing it. So powerful, the methods of a purple cloak world spiritist are indeed impressive. Seeing the special spirit formation being gradually broken through, Chu Feng sighed in admiration in his heart. The spirit formation was very strong. If he were to try and break it open, he would definitely not be able to. But when the dynasty's old ancestor came to break it, it was actually only a short moment of work to successfully break through. From that, it could be seen that there was a huge distance between a blue cloak world spiritist and a purple cloak world spiritist. Finally, the spirit formation was thoroughly destroyed. Simultaneously, a wicked howl also rang out quickly after. Horrifying aura instantly permeated throughout the entire palace. "This is bad." At that instant, the old ancestor hiddenly cursed, because not only did he feel aura that was not inferior to him, he also felt a burst of killing intent which pounced at him. Boom! Suddenly, an explosion resounded. The statue actually blew up, and at the same time, a huge monster also appeared in the middle of the palace. That monster had an extremely terrifying appearance. Sharp and pointed teeth, both eyes blood-red, a dark green aura up and down its entire body. Moreover, it emanated the aura of the 9th level of the heaven realm. In the first instant the monster appeared, it furiously howled, then quickly after, a huge claw along with boundless power slammed down towards the old ancestor. Seeing that without delay, the old ancestor angrily shouted. Then layers of heaven power explosively surged out. At the same time, faint radiance emitted from his body, and on his forehead, a dazzling golden royal character appeared. At that instant, the might of the dynasty's old ancestor multiplied. Looking purely at his outer appearance, he simply didn't even seem like a mortal, but more like a deity. And his strength even rose by several times, and was actually not the slightest bit weaker than the dark green monster in front of him. In a blink, the two horrifying existences who had overwhelming strength fought against one another. This isn't right. This monster is not a secret skill. Clearly, it is a vicious evil spirit. Chu Feng tightly furrowed his brows, not to mention its appearance. Just from its aura, Chu Feng was able to determine that the thing sealed within the stone statue was not a secret skill but an evil spirit. Chu Feng, run, leave this place. There isn't a secret skill here. It's a trap. Suddenly, Dynasty's old ancestor loudly yelled. Seeing the old ancestor who fought against the evil spirit, yet did not gain too big of an advantage, Chu Feng bit his teeth, then leaped and aimed to rush out of the palace, wanting to ask the monstrous Monkey King and the others for help. However, just as Chu Feng was going to move, he discovered at the exit of the palace a layer of blue-colored spirit formation covered it. Furthermore, a weak figure appeared in front of the exit, obstructing the road of retreat. It was the elder brother of the old ancestor, the supreme elder of the Jiang dynasty. Not only was the existence of the 8th level of the heaven realm not helping the old ancestor at that moment, he even sealed the exit of the palace. "Senior, what are you doing?" From the supreme elder's body, he felt the aura of danger, so he did not go close and loudly questioned. "Big brother, what are you doing? Quickly let Chu Feng out." And with Chu Feng's shouts, the dynasty's old ancestor also discovered the change over there and furiously interrogated. However, the supreme elder did not speak any words. He only lightly squinted his eyes, and then the corners of his mouth rose to form a hint of a strange smile. "Evil spirit, how about you cooperate with me?" Suddenly, the supreme elder looked at the evil spirit and said, "Cooperate, how so?" Hearing those words, an eerie voice also came from the evil spirit's mouth. "It will be very difficult to defeat him if you fight him one-on-one. I will help you kill him, but you guarantee my exit. How about it?" The supreme elder coldly smiled and said, "Haha, of course that's good. As long as you help me kill this guy, I will definitely release you. I believe in honesty the most. Gaga tilde." As the evil spirit insanely laughed loudly, it strengthened its attacks towards the dynasty's old ancestor. "Big brother, what are you saying? Not only are you not helping me, you are actually cooperating with the evil spirit to kill me." At that instant, the old ancestor was really abruptly shocked. "HMPH, you still recognize me to be your big brother. I am dozens of years older than you. I have greater seniority than you, and my talent is also no weaker than yours. But Father concentrated on raising you. Not only did he raise your cultivation to a higher point than mine, he even made you the emperor. Right now, you are also my dynasty's old ancestor, and I, who has the greatest seniority, is only some dog but supreme elder. Ha, I hate you. I thoroughly hate you. I hate that you call me big brother all day in such a fake manner, yet took away everything that belongs to me. For this day I have waited for a very long time. I will kill you now. I will personally kill you." At that instant, it was as if the supreme elder went insane. His face was sinister, and he fully revealed his killing intent. At the same time, on his forehead, he released a golden, dazzling royal character. Clearly, he also used the special royal bloodline unique to the Jiang dynasty, causing his battle power to multiply. Furthermore, a golden big blade appeared in his hand. It was an elite armament, a mastered elite armament. At that instant, the Supreme Elder's atmosphere was completely different, already infinitely nearing the 9th level of the heaven realm. Asterisk boom, asterisk suddenly, an explosion resonated, but it had to be said that the dynasty's old ancestor was truly very strong, even though his own elder brother held an elite armament, as well as joining hands with the horrifying evil spirit that aimed its attacks towards him. He was still not disadvantaged. Rather, fighting two as one, he became more and more courageous as he fought. "It is useless, even if you interfere, with only your cultivation of the 8th level of the heaven realm. It is useless. You wish to kill me, but today you will only be killed by me." The old ancestor coldly snorted. His battle power actually got stronger and stronger, and with his own power, he continuously pressed the evil spirit and the Supreme Elder back. So powerful. There is also a difference in strength for bloodline power, and this old ancestor's bloodline is clearly above his elder brothers. No wonder back then their father chose him to be the emperor. If their bloodlines were discussed, the old ancestor is indeed superior. The current Chu Feng already arrived at the exit of the palace. As he tried to break the blue-colored spirit formation, he paid attention to the battle in the core of the palace. He could already tell that the old ancestor's talent indeed surpassed his elder brothers. However, even though Chu Feng was also a blue cloak world spiritist, the strength of the spirit formation laid by world spiritists was related to their own cultivation. So it was truly not easy for Chu Feng to want to break the spirit formation within a short amount of time. In order to prevent any unanticipated changes, Chu Feng could only give up breaking the entire spirit formation and instead concentrated on one point because as long as a tiny crack could appear, Chu Feng would have ways to send out news to call the Monkey King to save himself. But just at that time, in the middle of the palace, dazzling brilliance was suddenly emitted. Turning his head back to look, a lotus flower the size of a washbowl, which shot radiance in all directions, appeared in the hand of the Supreme Elder. The lotus flower's aura was extremely horrifying, simply several times more horrifying than elite armaments. However, it was clearly not an elite armament. It seemed more like a sovereign treasure that could only be used once. The golden radiance lotus flower, you are actually using it to attack me. Seeing the golden-colored lotus flower, the old ancestor's face also changed greatly. He hurriedly stopped attacking and retreated. At the same time, radiance flashed in his palm, and a crimson longsword appeared in his palm as well. It was an elite armament, and similarly, a mastered elite armament. Facing the golden radiance lotus flower, even he had to seriously face it. This golden radiance lotus flower is an offensive sovereign treasure. There is only one in the entire Jiang dynasty, and it can kill any person under the martial lord realm. In that year, father felt that he owed me as he gave the position of emperor to you. So he bestowed this golden radiance lotus flower to me for protecting myself. But no matter what, he never would have expected that today I will use the sovereign treasure he granted me to kill the son he likes and admires the most. Ha 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 ha. Suddenly the Supreme Elder loudly laughed, and the more he laughed, the more sinister it was. As he loudly laughed, a baneful glare emerged into the nearby evil spirit's eyes as it hiddenly said, "Treacherous humans, killing one another. However, both of you will die by my hands. I will not let any one of you go. Go die." Finally, the Supreme Elder attacked. The golden radiance lotus flower in his hand was abruptly thrown. The complete lotus flower immediately fragmented, becoming countless golden arrows. With powerful might, they explosively shot towards the dynasty's old ancestor. Asterisk whoosh 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 asterisk crimson dragon heaven-covering shield. Seeing that, the longsword in the old ancestor's hand waved, and a huge dragon actually burst out. The huge dragon's body occupied the space in front of him and formed a crimson shield there, blocking several golden radiances. The power of the golden radiance was very strong. It interweaved with the dragon shield and actually made cracks appear on it from the collision. But ultimately, it was still unable to break through the barrier of the dragon shield and were all stopped. HMPH, it's useless. You underestimate me too much. Although this golden radiance lotus flower is very powerful, Father has already passed down the way to break it to me. This crimson dragon sword is equipped with both attack and defense, and the crimson dragon heaven-covering shield, when used, can precisely stop your golden radiance lotus flower, the dynasty's old ancestor said, while his face was filled with complacent. Haha, of course I know that the crimson dragon heaven-covering shield Father passed down to you can break my golden radiance lotus flower. So that is why I haven't made my move on you until today. However, despite being powerful, your crimson dragon heaven-covering shield has both advantages and detriments. It consumes too much power. It is a move that damages yourself. Don't forcefully hold on. Right now, your body is injured internally and your strength has been greatly diminished. You have already lost over half of your battle power. The Supreme Elder coldly smiled and said, "You." Hearing those words, the old ancestor's expression instantly changed greatly. His originally reddish face immediately turned deathly white, bloodless. At the same time, he opened his mouth, and with a poof, a mouthful of old blood sprayed out, splattering all over his clothes. He powerlessly fell onto the ground, and his aura already became extremely weak. Evil spirit, what are you waiting for? His source energy is yours, the Supreme Elder said to the evil spirit. Gagaga, my thanks. The evil spirit madly laughed and made a light, sinister smile. He pounced towards the old ancestor, opened its large mouth, and actually wanted to swallow him in one go. Crimson Dragon Heaven-breaking sword. But just as the evil spirit neared, the old ancestor's face suddenly turned better. His feeble aura actually regained its peak state, and simultaneously, the Crimson Dragon Heaven-breaking sword in his hand suddenly flew out, became golden radiance that was several feet long, and with bursts of dragon roars, it directly pierced through the evil spirit. Asterisk AO tilde 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 asterisk. The Crimson Dragon sword entered from the evil spirit's large mouth and exited from his buttocks. It pierced through its entire body, causing it to immediately howl in misery, being endlessly in pain. Ignorant, evil spirit, you truly think that we two brothers would kill ourselves? We were only intentionally acting to make you lower your guard and make the fatal strike afterwards. The golden radiance lotus flower just now was a fake one. That one only had might, but no real offensive power, tricking everyone other than us two brothers. The dynasty's old ancestor coldly smiled and said, "Evil spirits are evil spirits. You have strength but not brains. Ha ha ha." At the same time, the Supreme Elder also mockingly laughed loudly. "Damned humans, you are extremely despicable. I will kill you." The evil spirit was thoroughly furious. It originally wanted to plot against the two of them, but it didn't expect to be already plotted against from the very start. So it used its heavily injured body to release all of its power, wanting to use its everything to die with the old ancestor. "Is you right now able to fight against me?" However, he did not give it any chance. The Crimson Dragon sword in his hand waved again, causing a crimson dragon to be detached from the sword, colliding into the evil spirit. With that strike only, the evil spirit was shattered. Not to mention residue, there wasn't even any aura left behind. "Big brother, the golden radiance lotus flower you imitated is truly useful. It is simply the exact same as a real golden radiance lotus flower. When you used it just now, even I almost assumed it was real. So that's why I used the Crimson Dragon heaven-covering shield to block it." After killing the evil spirit, the dynasty's old ancestor lightly smiled and said, "Yeah, Father bestowed this golden radiance lotus flower to me, and it has absolute offensive power. I have always been unwilling to use it. However, I meticulously studied it. I created an imitation that has the same might as the golden radiance lotus flower. Although its true offensive strength is very weak, it can at least scare people." As the Supreme Elder spoke, a golden radiance lotus flower appeared once again on his palm. "But even though this is an imitation, it more or less has some offensive power. Why not use your spirit formation to feel what level of power this imitation has?" The Supreme Elder smilingly said. This. At that instant, the old ancestor's face slightly changed and originally wanted to say something. "Go." But at the same time, the Supreme Elder had already flicked his big sleeve. The golden radiance lotus flower in his hand left it, flew, became several golden arrows, and explosively shot towards the dynasty's old ancestor. Seeing that, the old ancestor did not panic, nor did he wave his sword to block. He said, "Big brother's golden radiance lotus flower is getting more and more realistic. Indeed, it can scare away quite a few experts. As for the power, let me analyze it for you." As he spoke, he waved his clothes. A layer of weak spirit formation appeared in front of him, as he wanted to use it to block the imitation golden radiance lotus flower. Asterisk bang 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 asterisk however, as the several golden arrows interweaved with the spirit formation, the spirit formation was actually shattered immediately. Simultaneously, the several golden arrows instantly accelerated, and with horrifying might, they shot straight towards the dynasty's old ancestor. Crap! In the moment the spirit formation was broken, the old ancestor's originally calm face instantly changed, greatly because he astonishedly discovered that the golden radiance lotus flower was not fake. It was real, but when he discovered that, it was already too late. He would not make it if he were to dodge, so he could only forcibly defend against the attack. Thus, as he willed, layers of purple-colored spirit formation unendingly came out from his body to block the approaching golden arrows. Asterisk bang 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 asterisk bursts of explosions endlessly went out in front of the dynasty's old ancestor. But the layers of purple-colored spirit formation also endlessly shattered. At the end, several golden radiances all struck the body of the dynasty's old ancestor. Asterisk whoosh asterisk. But just as the golden arrows struck the old ancestor's body, his golden robe gave off dazzling golden brilliance and interweaved with the golden arrows. Elite armament, pure dragon robe. I already knew that Father must also have gave this elite armament to you. However, do not underestimate my golden radiance lotus flower. Although it can only be used once, if I channel all my power into it, even the pure dragon robe cannot block it. Suddenly, the Supreme Elder explosively shouted. The golden arrows then abruptly detonated. Bursts of explosions endlessly rang out, and countless berserk ripples constantly swept and spread on the old ancestor's body. Damn it, this Supreme Elder is actually attacking his dynasty's old ancestor. What exactly is happening? At that instant, Chu Feng was endlessly shocked. He originally thought that the danger in front of his eyes was already dissolved, but he did not expect the Supreme Elder to suddenly change his face again. Moreover, the attacks right now clearly harmed the dynasty's old ancestor already, because even though the old ancestor had an elite armament protecting him, such a terrifying attack would definitely cause heavy injuries on his body. Screw it. Although he was still unclear what was happening between the old ancestor and the Supreme Elder, Chu Feng felt that the situation in front of him was already not good. So with his full power, he finally made a crack in the blue-colored spirit formation. Quickly after, Chu Feng overlaid his palms. A flash of radiance came from the middle of his hands. Then he opened them once again. A fingernail-sized blue-colored crystal object had appeared on his palm. Chu Feng patted his palm towards the crack. A slightly weak ripple spread, and when he retracted his palm, the crack in the blue-colored spirit formation already disappeared. But the blue-colored crystal object pierced through the spirit formation, became a blur of light, and flew out of the palace. But at the same time, the horrifying ripples finally dissipated. The body of Dynasty's old ancestor appeared within Chu Feng's line of sight once again. The current old ancestor's body, other than the areas covered by the golden long robe, was horribly mangled. There were even some places that revealed eerie white bones. Even his face was no exception. It was extremely horrifying. Although he blocked the golden radiance lotus flower, his body did indeed receive heavy injuries. Currently, his aura was feeble, not to mention continuing to fight. If he remained in that state, he would quickly die. Why attack me? Let me at least die with some understanding. The dynasty's old ancestor said, "Oh brother, don't blame me. I don't care about something like the position of emperor. I also don't care about the love Father has given to you. Even more so, I don't care about all the fame and wealth being taken by you. What I do care about is whether I die or live, but I have already reached the year of death, but I don't want to die. In these years, I have always been searching for a method to prolong my life. I've tried various immortal grasses and divine medicines, but the effects were extremely minuscule. The ones with the best effect were only the year prolongation immortal grasses. But you also know that those things are very precious. So precious that even you aren't willing to buy some even as your life reaches the end. So I shouldn't even hope for you to buy me some. Hence, when the Ji dynasty, Zhao dynasty, and Liu dynasty joined hands to take out 10-year prolongation immortal grasses in exchange for your life, I agreed. The Supreme Elder lightly smiled and said, "Big brother, you are truly stupid." Asterisk cough 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 asterisk hearing those words, the dynasty's old ancestor was furious. He first violently coughed a few times, then said, "How many years has the Zhai clan, Zhao clan, and Liu clan wanted to invade my Jiang dynasty? At present, in the Jiang dynasty, the only one able to fight against them is me. You helping them right now is not only as simple as killing me. You are sending my entire Jiang dynasty to the grave. Ho, if you truly feared them, you wouldn't be taking a risk by coming here to open the Emperor tomb." The Supreme Elder coldly smiled. Quickly after he said, "Besides, what does the existence of the Jiang dynasty have to do with me? I only care how long my own life can last for. In the past years, in order to help you prolong your life, have I spent a small amount of resources on you. I treat you like this, yet you repay me in such a way and actually don't care about the survival of the dynasty. Are you still human? You are simply an animal." Asterisk cough 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 tilde 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 asterisk, the dynasty's old ancestor continuously coughed from anger. Mouthfuls and mouthfuls of blood kept on spraying out from his mouth. Both of his hands pushed against the floor, as from top to bottom, his entire body was intensely quivering. The current ruler of the Jiang dynasty's life was presently flowing away rapidly. At present, he was already on the border of life and death. Oh brother, this is exactly the so-called without being ruthless. One cannot be a man. For survival, I can do anything. Before long, the Jiang dynasty will accompany your death. So, go die without worries. The Supreme Elder fully revealed his killing intent. Seeing his younger brother, who was made completely unrecognizable and horribly mangled by himself, he actually didn't show any traces of being sorry. Instead, he wanted to kill his own blood brother. "Old beast, your life shall rest." But just at that time, Chu Feng used the power of lightning and raised his cultivation to the first level of the heaven realm. He waved the Asura ghost axe, explosively shot a black-colored blade of light, and it flew towards the Supreme Elder. Although he wasn't too close with the dynasty's old ancestor, he was not willing to just watch a decent old man be killed by someone. So he had to make a move. Even though he clearly knew he wouldn't be able to defeat his opponent, at least he could buy some time. "HMPH, even a little ant like you dares to attack me. You are truly looking to die." Seeing that, the Supreme Elder coldly snorted, and without even moving his hand, a layer of heaven power was spread out, immediately crushing and shattering the black-colored blade of light. Furthermore, with horrifying pressure, the heaven power was going to engulf Chu Feng. Damn it, a person in the 8th level of the heaven realm is really too terrifying. In front of him, I do not have any ability to return the attacks. At that instant, Chu Feng tightly furrowed his brows, and his face changed greatly because he astonishedly discovered in front of the heaven power, his body was already bound, and what awaited him was an unstoppable, terrifying attack that could not be dodged. With the power that the heaven power contained, it could definitely burst Chu Feng into a pool of blood. Asterisk boom asterisk, but in the moment when everything was hanging by a single thread, an explosion suddenly rang out behind Chu Feng. At the same time, a body appeared in front of him like a ghost. Its palm opened. Then the horrifying heaven power disappeared like smoke dissipating and cloud dispersing. It was the monstrous Monkey King. After the monstrous Monkey King received Chu Feng's signal, it immediately came over. What is happening? At that instant, the emperor of the Jiang dynasty, as well as experts such as Jiang Hengyuan, all ran inside. When they saw the scene in front of their eyes, all of them didn't know what to do. "Monkey bro, quickly protect the old ancestor. The Supreme Elder wants to kill him," Chu Feng hurriedly said. "I knew that this old thing wasn't a kind one. I will put him to his place right now." The monstrous Monkey King did not waste any time with words as well. The red glare in his eyes flickered as he became a blur, rushing towards the Supreme Elder. "Even if you don't die within a short period of time, your body will not recover either. The Jiang dynasty's later generation quickly leave the continent of the 9 provinces and yield this piece of land, or else what awaits you is the eradication of the Jiang dynasty. Ha ha ha." However, at that instant, the Supreme Elder did not exchange blows with the monstrous Monkey King. Instead, he turned and circled around the monstrous Monkey King with a strange angle. With bursts of cold laughter, he escaped. At that instant, the monstrous Monkey King also did not chase as of the people there. The one it was most concerned about was only Chu Feng. If some change happened to Chu Feng after it left, the losses would not outweigh the gains. "Father, are you okay?" "Ancestor, heavens, what exactly is going on here?" "Chu Feng, what exactly happened here?" After the Supreme Elder left, the Jiang dynasty crowd hurriedly rushed towards their old ancestor. As they did their best to control the old ancestor's injuries, they asked Chu Feng about the ins and outs of what happened. And after knowing everything, the expressions of the people from the Jiang dynasty rapidly changed, and on their faces, unprecedented worry surged, as if their last days had arrived. After stabilizing the old ancestor's injuries, with the lead of the emperor, they backed out of the emperor tomb. As for Gu Tianchen and the others from the World Spirit Guild, they also feared the dangers of the emperor tomb and chose to back out as well. At that very instant, only Chu Feng and the monstrous Monkey King remained. Chu Feng was not willing to leave just like that, and the monstrous Monkey King was the same. So the two of them didn't care about the hidden risks within the Emperor Tomb and decided to continue deeper in. However, before walking for long, the monstrous Monkey King's face changed and said, "My guess was indeed correct. There are indeed obstructions in his place. Moreover, extremely powerful spirit formation obstructions." "Monkey bro, why so?" Chu Feng confusedly asked. "Chu Feng, look at this." Suddenly, the monstrous Monkey King leaped, and when it appeared again, it was already 100 meters away from Chu Feng. Seeing that, Chu Feng hurriedly ran over. Only then did he discover under the monstrous Monkey King's feet there was a pool of water. To be more precise, it was not ordinary water because the water was extremely clear. In addition to that, there was even faint brilliance, and from the little pool of water, Chu Feng felt extremely wild energy as well as extremely dense spiritual power, origin power, profound power, and heaven power. "Monkey bro, what is this?" Chu Feng felt endlessly shocked because he felt that this thing, that gathered all the energy in the air, would have amazing effects in cultivation and was a precious cultivating treasure. "This is," the monstrous Monkey King said. Chu Feng's interest multiplied. "Spirit formations are very powerful. They can block the attacks that humans make, but it cannot block the world's energy flowing in the air. The so-called world's energy also includes spiritual power, origin power, profound power, heaven power, and even the more powerful martial power, as well as other formless energies in the world. They are all world's energy. However, when a type of spirit formation reaches a certain degree of strength, it can block the flow of the world's energy. And when this type of spirit formation has many years of existence, it will convert all the world's energy it stopped into physical form. This is, and since has appeared in this place, it means that there should originally be a spirit formation here. Yet right now, there is nothing and only remains. This only indicates one thing. The spirit formation was broken by someone, broken without leaving any trace at all. As the monstrous Monkey King spoke, it carefully looked everywhere, seemingly wanting to find hints of the spirit formation. Then it means that this is truly a treasure. But compared to the worry of the monstrous Monkey King, Chu Feng was not interested in the spirit formation. What he felt interested in was only the. As he spoke, Chu Feng took out a jade bottle that stored medicinal pellets from his cosmos sack, and after pouring the pellets out, he started to gather them on the ground. "Chu Feng, what are you doing?" This is extremely berserk, do not touch it. It's said that there was once a powerful world spiritist who wanted to extract the world's energy from the. He laid a huge, special formation and took out all the frenzied energy from the, then consumed and refined the as if it was a heaven medicine. But at the end, because there was still a bit of wild energy remaining within the not taken away, it caused the world spiritist to lose his life because of that. So this has been determined as a dangerous object. Everyone who sees it only keeps a distance. Seeing Chu Feng's actions, the monstrous Monkey King's face changed greatly, hurriedly speaking to stop him. "Monkey bro, don't worry. It's not like I'm preparing to refine it. But such a precious and strange thing is really rarely seen. I want collected and make it a memento." Chu Feng lightly smiled, then immediately after, engraved a small-scale spirit formation on the bottle. Afterwards, he inverted it. Then a bundle of light shot out from the mouth of the bottle. The areas that the radiance covered made the spirit formation essence flow reversely in, and were all absorbed into the jade bottle. Just like that, with a blink of work, Chu Feng finishing collecting all of the spirit formation essence and stuffed it into the cosmos sack. "Boy, do not think of refining this thing or else it will cost your little life. Don't blame me for not reminding you then." The monstrous Monkey King shot Chu Feng a glance, seeming to know Chu Feng's plans, but did not go too deep and continued to walk forward. "Ha!" Chu Feng chuckled, scratched his head and also followed. But before walking for far, the monstrous Monkey King suddenly stopped. Quickly after, it waved his big sleeve and curled Chu Feng up, then along with him, speedily flew towards the direction they came from originally. "Monkey bro, what's wrong? Did you feel that something was wrong?" To the monstrous Monkey King's sudden actions, Chu Feng guessed that it was definitely because he detected the aura of danger, or else with his nature, it would be impossible for him to escape so wildly. "Just now, I felt two evil spirits in the 9th level of the heaven realm. Luckily, they did not have spirit power, so before they discovered you and me, I detected them first. Or else, with my current cultivation, I might not have been able to escape from their hands. This Emperor tomb is in chaos. Many barricades have been opened, and sooner or later, the evil spirits will discover that. When they run everywhere and kill each other, it will be even more dangerous. With our cultivation, we cannot enter the Emperor tomb again from this place," the monstrous Monkey King explained. Hearing those words, although Chu Feng was a bit unwilling to, he had no choice. Even the monstrous Monkey King shrunk away. So with his tiny cultivation of the 1st level of the heaven realm, what could he do? Besides, on the road, they didn't even see any treasures. Even the secret skill was made into a trap. Chu Feng felt that it was because of the black-clothed old man, with him opening up the road in front. Even if Chu Feng continued taking risks and kept on going forward, he would not gain any benefits. Benefits that were able to be seen would certainly be taken away by the black-clothed old man. So Chu Feng decided to just return to the Azure Dragon School. After all, presently, the Jiang dynasty had a disaster heading its way. It was likely that the entire continent of the 9 provinces would sink into huge disarray. At a time like this, he and the monstrous Monkey King had to return to the Azure Dragon School to control the situation. Or else, with a mistake, the Azure Dragon School, which hadn't finished being rebuilt, would very possibly die out completely. Within the Azure Dragon mountain range, the rebuilding of the Azure Dragon School was in progress very successfully. Many main buildings were already finished being set up. There was a grand atmosphere, and compared to the former Azure Dragon School, it was many times more spectacular. No matter if it was scale or quality, both were raised a lot, and a flourishing appearance was manifesting everywhere. Furthermore, at present, there were already disciples and elders living in many buildings. It could be seen that some disciples were cultivating and some disciples were conversing. There were many new faces, but all had extraordinary aptitude. There were expressions of joy on everyone's faces. However, they did not know that right now, the continent of the 9 provinces was facing a calamity. At least the Jiang dynasty, the huge power titled as the overlord of the 9 provinces for many years was very possibly going to be replaced by others, and that the continent was going to go into chaos. After Chu Feng returned to the Azure Dragon School, he didn't go see Li Zhanking. He directly came to the center of the Azure Dragon School, to the vastest palace. In this place, there were a few elders with quite decent strength, and because it was a forbidden area, when they saw a figure descending from the sky, all of them raised their guards, as though they were facing a grand enemy. But after they clearly saw that person's appearance, they hurriedly made way. Moreover, humble expressions filled their faces, because they already recognized that the person who came was the one who did the meritorious deed of rebuilding the Azure Dragon School, Chu Feng. After Chu Feng entered the palace, he walked into the underground palace. Within the underground palace, he laid a spirit formation. Then very quickly, an entrance appeared. It was the entrance to the 1,000-bone graveyard. However, above the current entrance, a grand structure covered it. So, this place also became a forbidden area. After arriving at the 1,000-bone graveyard, Chu Feng told the Azure Dragon founder all about opening the Emperor tomb, as well as the Jiang dynasty facing a disaster. Chu Feng, we cannot do nothing and ignore this matter. After knowing everything, the Azure Dragon founder tightly knitted his brows and solemnly said, "Ancestor, actually, I also want to help the Jiang dynasty. After all, right now, the labor for rebuilding of the Azure Dragon School is from the Jiang dynasty. Everyone in the continent of the 9 provinces know that my Azure Dragon School's relationship with the Jiang dynasty is not simple. So, if the 3 dynasties truly want to eradicate the Jiang dynasty, my Azure Dragon School will most likely not avoid destruction. However, with our strengths, I'm afraid we cannot save the Jiang dynasty." Chu Feng shook his head. "Chu Feng is the purple cloak world spiritist you told me about last time still here?" After thinking for a while, the Azure Dragon founder asked, "You're talking about Monkey Bro?" "Yes, it's said that the monstrous beasts of the 1,000 Monster Mountain will live and die with the Azure Dragon School," Chu Feng replied. I never would have thought that this monstrous beast would be filled with such strong camaraderie. Whatever, as things are right now, there is no other way. Tell it to come, I have something I need its help for," the Azure Dragon founder said. "Ancestor, is it possible that you mean?" Chu Feng couldn't help but rejoice, as he already heard the meaning behind his words. "Little boy, you truly ask even though you already know the answer." The Azure Dragon founder shook his head with a bitter smile, then said, "Back then, the Jiang dynasty has showed me kindness as well, so I can't just watch them die out like this. Besides, when the other dynasties come to rule the continent of the 9 provinces, they may not kindly treat the forces and citizens here. So, I want to allow that monstrous beast help me revive, to use my set of old bones to help the Jiang dynasty, and to fight against the 3 dynasties. I understand, ancestor, I will go right now." Although he already expected it, when the Azure Dragon founder personally spoke those words, Chu Feng was still unendingly excited. After that, Chu Feng told the monstrous Monkey King about the Azure Dragon founder. After knowing that the Azure Dragon founder was in this world currently, even it was shocked. After all, after 1,000 years, no matter if it was man or consciousness, they should be destroyed. However, being shocked was being shocked. The monstrous Monkey King did not ask much and straightforwardly agreed to Chu Feng's request, agreed to help the Azure Dragon founder resurrect. So Chu Feng brought the monstrous Monkey King and entered the 1,000-bone graveyard to meet with the Azure Dragon founder. And seeing his strong consciousness and complete corpse, as well as the special pearl, the monstrous Monkey King was endlessly shocked. However, facing a complete source energy from an expert in the peak of the heaven realm, as well as a mysterious treasure pearl with special power, the monstrous Monkey King did not have any plundering actions. Rather, it changed its usual untamed attitude and respectfully said to the Azure Dragon founder, "Azure Dragon founder, in terms of age, you are my senior, In terms of status, you are my brother's ancestor. Tell me, what do I need to do in order to help you revive? The monstrous Monkey King helping the Azure Dragon founder revive was a very tedious and complicated matter. It required a very lengthy period of time, needing at least 1 month. To such high difficulty matters, with the spirit formations techniques that Chu Feng currently grasped, he could really not help out much. As the monstrous Monkey King discussed the specific steps with the Azure Dragon founder regarding his revival, Chu Feng arrived in front of the spirit formation, sealing Su Ru and Su Mei. You two girls, 2 years has passed with a single sleep. Do you know how much I miss your voices, your smiles? Chu Feng sat in front of the spirit formation. Through the gaps, he was looking at the two beauties in the spirit formation, and the corners of his mouth couldn't help raising to form a hint of a peaceful smile. Quite some time had passed since the monstrous Monkey King saved Su Ru and Su Mei by thoroughly merging the ice and fire pearls into their bodies, but the two of them had yet to reawaken. At first, Chu Feng was still very worried, but very quickly, his nervousness became nothing, and replacing it was unexpected and surprising joy. It was because, as Su Ru and Su Mei deeply slept, not only did they gradually recover their former appearances, as the color of their faces became redder and redder. Currently, they had a special atmosphere they didn't have before. It was something that normal people did not have, so without a doubt, it was definitely affected by the pearls within their bodies. But the thing that made Chu Feng most joyful was that, as the two of them were in deep sleep, their auras started to rise. Currently, Su Ru already rose into the 6th level of the profound realm, and even Su Mei's cultivation rose into the 5th level of the profound realm. Unknowingly, their cultivations were actually quickly going to catch up to Chu Feng's. To know that the reason why Chu Feng was able to have his current cultivation was because he experienced countless tribulations and cultivated a large amount of resources. It could be said that he paid an extremely huge price, but the two girls found fortune in a disaster. They only slept deeply for roughly 2 years of time, and their cultivation rose greatly. Moreover, it was clearly not their final realm. If it continued, when they were to wake up, perhaps they could even step into the heaven realm. Speaking honestly, facing that situation, even if it was Chu Feng, he felt a bit of admiration. However, even more so, he felt happy. After all, Su Ru and Su Mei were people he loved. If their cultivation became stronger, it was equal to having the power to protect themselves. It was exactly what Chu Feng hoped for. If the Jiang dynasty can dissolve this danger, and both of you can also quickly awaken, follow me to the Eastern Sea region to have a look. After all, you two who have the 2 pearls should also go check out that land. Chu Feng already made plans. If Su Ru and Su Mei could quickly awaken, he would bring them along to the Eastern Sea region, and also let them join the 4 Seas Academy together with Jiang Wushang and Zhang Tianyi. With that, for the two of them, they would have greater developments. After all, joining the 4 Seas Academy was equivalent to having a shelter, and relatively speaking, it would be safer. As for Chu Feng himself, he temporarily already gave up the thought of joining the 4 Seas Academy because he had to quickly raise his cultivation, and that required a large amount of cultivation resources. But as cultivation resources were so precious, on the journey of retrieving them, it would be hard to avoid setting enmity with others. So after Chu Feng entered the Eastern Sea region, on the surface, he would act as if he didn't know Zhang Tianyi, Jiang Wushang, and the others. He would only meet up with them in the dark, so that in the future, the enemies he offended wouldn't go and find Zhang Tianyi and the others for settling debts. Let me feel what kind of effects this thing has. Suddenly, Chu Feng took out the jade bottle containing the spirit formation essence. Although he already knew how horrifying the spirit formation essence was, being titled as a dangerous object that could not be refined, Chu Feng felt that it could be refined. The divine lightning in his body seemed to not fear any frenzied energy. As long as it was energy in between the heaven and the earth, they could all be absorbed by it. So Chu Feng opened the jade bottle and poured a drop of spirit formation essence onto his hand. Just in case, he only licked it. Immediately, he felt a burst of wild gas exploding in his mouth. At that instant, Chu Feng hurriedly closed his mouth, and while grinding his teeth, he forcefully swallowed the gas. Just as it entered his throat, the wild gas attacked Chu Feng's body. But just as it had indications of attacking, a burst of boundless suction power surged out of Chu Feng's dantian, forcibly taking the frenzied gas into the dantian. At the same time, chewing sounds came from his dantian. At that moment, Chu Feng was endlessly ecstatic because the wild spirit formation essence was exactly how Chu Feng expected it to be. It was consumed by the divine lightning in Chu Feng's dantian, without any negative effects at all. Moreover, with just a tiny bit, Chu Feng felt his aura strengthen a lot. From then on, from little to more, Chu Feng swallowed the spirit formation essence in the jade bottle bit by bit, and after Chu Feng completely finished the bottle of spirit formation essence, like a miracle, Chu Feng broke into the 9th level of the profound realm. This spirit formation essence is indeed a good thing. With just this tiny bit, it made me break through 1 level of cultivation. If I get myself more of this, wouldn't I have hoped to step into the heaven realm? Chu Feng was very excited. He was not only happy because the spirit formation essence could be refined by him, but because the divine lightning could be fearless of such uncontrolled energy, which means many things people could not refine and were viewed as dangerous. Chu Feng could take them as cultivation resources and refine them. Haha, Chu Feng, I had said it before. You don't need to worry about cultivation resources because there are many types of cultivation resources in this world. Right now, you believe me right. There are still many things like this spirit formation essence in this world. To normal people, they are useless, and are even things that they keep a distance when seen. But to you, they have incomparable advantageous effects. This continent of the 9 provinces is only a tiny land. It is normal for this place to have few oddities, but I believe after you step into the Eastern Sea region, there will be more and more things able to be used by you. 4 years later, you may not have no chance. Just at that time, Eggy also spoke. Actually, when Chu Feng consumed the spirit formation essence just now, she also broke out in a cold sweat for Chu Feng. But after seeing him succeed from the bottom of her heart, she felt happy for Chu Feng. Yeah, I look more and more forward to stepping on that land. And after hearing Eggy's words, Chu Feng was even more endlessly looking forward to the Eastern Sea region. After his cultivation broke through, Chu Feng didn't go disturb the monstrous Monkey King and the Azure Dragon founder. He left the 1,000-bone graveyard, but just as he returned to the vast palace, he discovered that Lai Zhanking was sitting inside with a face full of uneasiness. After Lai Zhanking saw Chu Feng, he ran up to him and said with somewhat panic, "Chu Feng, this isn't good." "School head, what happened?" Chu Feng puzzledly asked. "Look at this." Lai Zhanking handed a golden letter to Chu Feng. The letter was sent by the Jiang dynasty, and on the letter, 3 dazzling big words were written. It was I never would have thought that the Jiang dynasty was forced to this kind of state. After seeing the letter, Chu Feng sighed. It was because the so-called dynasty summoning order was for summoning all of the peak experts in all of the powers in the continent of the 9 provinces, telling them to go forward to the Jiang dynasty in order to fight against a great enemy together. Thinking about how strong the Jiang dynasty was, so strong that even after so many years, there were no other powers that dared to invade the continent of the 9 provinces. Yet as things were at present, the Jiang dynasty was actually asking for assistance from the powers of many places in the 9 provinces. It could be seen that the current Jiang dynasty was indeed facing a huge plight. "Chu Feng, is it possible that you know what happened?" Seeing Chu Feng's reaction, which was of having no surprise, and rather as if everything within expectations, Lai Zhanking became aware that Chu Feng possibly knew something. "Yeah, school head right now, the Jiang dynasty. And it can even be said that the entire continent of the 9 provinces are facing their biggest predicament. Right now, 3 dynasties that control 3 continents are joining hands and attacking the Jiang dynasty. Actually, if it was before, the Jiang dynasty did not fear them, but right now, the old ancestor of the Jiang dynasty has been heavily injured and is powerless to battle. So it can be said that the Jiang dynasty is in imminent danger currently. If the Jiang dynasty is truly destroyed, I'm afraid that my Azure Dragon School will also be affected. Chu Feng spoke the truth. I never would have thought that such a huge matter actually happened. After knowing the truth, the uneasiness on Li Zhangqing's face became a bit stronger. As things are right now, there is no other way. We can only fight with all our strengths, so hopefully the three dynasties come a bit later. Chu Feng knew if the Azure Dragon founder revived, with his strength, he would definitely help the Jiang dynasty defeat the three other dynasties. But the Azure Dragon founder's revival required at least 1 month of time, perhaps even several months of time. So Chu Feng could only hope that the Azure Dragon founder revive before the grand army of the three clans arrive at the gates of the Jiang dynasty. After that, within the current Azure Dragon School, Chu Feng gathered all the Heaven Realm experts together and roughly said that at present, the Jiang dynasty was going to face huge trouble and that he was preparing to support them. However, people would very possibly lose lives in that matter, so Chu Feng didn't force anyone. Those who were willing to go, follow him. Those who were unwilling to go could choose to stay, even if they feared the arrival of the three clans' army and were afraid of themselves. It would be fine, even if they backed out of the Azure Dragon School. But what Chu Feng did not expect was that, other than several people who chose to leave the Azure Dragon School, everyone else decided to follow Chu Feng to help the Jiang dynasty, especially the monstrous beasts of the Thousand Monster Mountain. They were filled with bloodthirst, and not a single one shrunk away, although it was possible that the monstrous Monkey King said something for them to act such a way. It had to be said that the group of monstrous beasts indeed made Chu Feng look at them in different eyes. So, with the entrustment of the Azure Dragon founder, and with Zhang Tianyi, the 5 monster kings, as well as a group of Heaven Realm experts, they went forth to support the Jiang dynasty, to defend against the attack of the three clans' army. Many days later, the current Jiang dynasty was very strictly on guard. Everyone knew that the three dynasties were going to attack, and all of them were preparing to face an enemy. Outside of the vast city, a powerful spirit formation had already been opened. All of the experts in the dynasty were on alert, finishing making preparations for defending against the three clans' army. At present, the emperor of the Jiang dynasty, as well as experts such as Jiang Hengyuan, stood on top of the city walls and looked at the distance from high up with complicated gazes. It was because they didn't know how much longer peace like that could be continued for. Swish suddenly, a dynasty elder flew from the heart of the dynasty itself and landed on the city wall. He first respectfully saluted to the emperor as well as the many experts, then said with very slight agitation appearing, "My lord, reporting in. The army of the three clans has already entered the borders of the 9 provinces and is currently hurrying towards my Jiang dynasty." "What, so fast? How many have come? What are their cultivation?" Hearing those words, the faces of many experts changed greatly as surprise and panic emerged onto their faces. They are approaching on air. The specific number of people is very difficult to be sure of, but they are at least in the Heaven Realm. Other than humans, there are also many powerful monstrous beasts. The elder replied, "Then what about my 9 provinces' powers? Count the date. They should have already received the summoning order we sent out, right? Why, up until now there are no movements." One expert asked. "The Jai clan, Yuangang School, Fire God Valley, and other powers have yet to arrive within the borders of my Han province, and the scouts stationed at the various provinces report that they are organizing their troops right now, preparing to leave the continent of the 9 provinces. I'm afraid that they won't come to support us." The elder replied, "Truly damn it. It was a waste for the emperor to save their lives from the hands of the monstrous Monkey King. Right now, they actually forget such kindness." After knowing the news, All of the dynasty experts on scene were endlessly furious. Whatever, we should originally not rely on others for assistance on this matter. Besides, even if they came, so what? Can they stop the three dynasties, three old ancestors, in the 9th level of the heaven realm? As things are right now, we can only rely on the royal bloodline attachment formation that the former old ancestor left behind. Just at that time, the emperor spoke. In my Jiang dynasty, a hope like Wusheng finally appeared with great difficulty. If some accident truly appears, what would we do then? Jiang Hengyuan said with a face filled with worry. Yeah, my lord, Senior Jiang is extremely correct. Right now, my Jiang dynasty should think of ways to protect Wusheng, and should get him quickly out of the 9 provinces. How can we, at this time, let him borrow the power of the royal bloodline attachment formation to fight against the enemy? This is really too risky. Many other experts went up and urged, if my dynasty doesn't even exist, what use is hope? Besides, choosing to stay behind to borrow the power of the royal bloodline attachment formation in order to fight against the 3 dynasties was Wusheng's own decision. I am very happy to be able to have a son like him. At that instant, the corners of the emperor's mouth rose to form proud light smile, and after hearing his words, the group of experts also lowered their heads and said nothing. They really didn't know how to advise him otherwise. My lord, this isn't good. But just at that time, another dynasty expert pierced through the air and came. Moreover, his face was filled with panic. What's the matter? Seeing that, the crowd's expression all changed slightly and asked at the same time. There is a group of people entering my dynasty's borders and are currently approaching quickly towards my dynasty. Their cultivation is almost all in the heaven realm. The expert replied, is it possible that they have come so quickly? After knowing that, everyone tightly furrowed their brows and cast their gazes towards the distance. Furthermore, an order was made. All troops of the Jiang dynasty prepare to face the enemy. And as the Jiang dynasty prepared to face a nasty battle, and as everyone locked their nervous gazes towards the distant horizon, a group of figures finally appeared within their field of view. And when the people from the Jiang dynasty saw that group of people, their originally solemn expressions instantly became joyful, because they already recognized that the ones who were coming were not the armies of the 3 clans, but the people they were familiar with. It was Chu Feng. The group of powerful people Chu Feng led from the Azure Dragon School had come to support the Jiang dynasty. At that instant, no matter if it was the dynasty's emperor or the dynasty's many experts, they rejoiced unexpectedly and were endlessly excited, because they never would have thought when the powers, which followed them for many years, all chose to leave, Chu Feng would bring so many experts to support them. The proverb said it well. True feelings are seen when disaster strikes. Although the troops Chu Feng brought really had no way of fighting against the troops of the 3 great dynasties, it spoke his heart. Chu Feng's action was undoubtedly like sending coal during winter, giving the Jiang dynasty a huge encouragement. I didn't expect that, as my Jiang dynasty stands on the border of life and death, this child would come help us while disregarding his life. No wonder Yinny and Wusheng, as well as father, has such a good impressions on this child. It seems like he is truly a person who cares about feelings and camaraderie. Seeing Chu Feng and the others, the emperor also had a face filled with relief. His already quite good impression on Chu Feng immediately became much better. In the moment they discovered it was Chu Feng and the others who came as reinforcements, the Jiang dynasty closed the spirit formation that reached the sky, opened the city gates, and welcomed Chu Feng and the others in. My friend Chu Feng, you indeed have camaraderie and righteousness. At a time like this, the one willing to support my Jiang dynasty is only your Azure Dragon School. Jiang Hengyuan looked at Chu Feng and said while smiling, ah, brother Hengyuan, it can't be said like that. Haven't I, Chi Feng Yang, represented the Qilin prince's mansion and come? Just at that time, an old man walked out from the crowd. It was none other than Chi Feng Yang. Ha ha, brother Feng Yang, I knew you would come. Seeing Chi Feng Yang, The smile on Jiang Hengyuan's face became a bit stronger. Although no matter if it was cultivation or status, he and Chu Feng weren't equal. The two of them got along extremely well, and their relationship was not different than brothers at all. That's right. My second brother is correct. I believe that as they are the same as us, remembering that the Jiang dynasty has not shown a small number of acts of kindness. At least the people from the World Spirit Guild will definitely come. Chu Feng smilingly said. The second brother he spoke of was Chu Feng. Back then, Chu Feng and Chu Feng became sworn brothers, so Chu Feng became Chu Feng's big brother. But after the monstrous Monkey King appeared, the seniority between the three of them changed. The monstrous Monkey King was the big brother. Chu Feng became the second brother. And as Chu Feng had the smallest seniority, he was the third brother. As they spoke, a dynasty expert speedily flew over, went up to the emperor, saluted, and reported, "My lord," reporting in. All of the Heaven Realm experts from the World Spirit Guild, with Gu Tianxian leading, has already entered my dynasty's borders. Right now, they are hurrying towards my Jiang dynasty's headquarters. Ha! Chu Feng's words are truly accurate. I knew that this World Spirit Guild would be different from the Jai clan. At the time of my Jiang dynasty's catastrophe, they would definitely come and help. My Jiang dynasty, cooperating with them for this many years, has indeed not been in vain. After learning of that news, the people from the Jiang dynasty were even endlessly elated, putting aside that the arrival of reinforcements at a time like this would provide them with quite a bit of battle power. Purely the intention caused their morale to multiply. "My lord!" Suddenly another shout rang out. This time it was an old man, similarly a Heaven Realm expert. As he shouted for the emperor, he flew over with extremely quick speed. Is it possible that another power has come to assist my Jiang dynasty? Seeing that person, the people on scene were full of smiles, and even thought there was more good news. Wait, but when they saw the face of that elder, their hearts were frightened because on the face of the old man, it was not of joy. It was a face filled with panic. What's the matter? What happened? The emperor of the Jiang dynasty went up to ask. Prince He couldn't endure the power of them, and right now he is unconscious. My lord, quickly go and see him, the elder alarmedly said. What? After hearing those words, the expressions of everyone on scene in the Jiang dynasty changed greatly, especially the emperor. His originally joyful face immediately became pale white. He leaped and flew towards the core zone of the dynasty. At the same time, other experts from the Jiang dynasty followed one after the other. Seeing that, after Chu Feng and the others looked at each other, they also followed. And because presently, Chu Feng and the others had a reinforcement relationship with the Jiang dynasty, there was no one who stopped them when they followed the emperor and the others. On the road, they walked through layers of barriers, and finally, they entered a luxurious underground palace. To be more precise, it was not an underground palace, but a huge underground formation. It was because the entire palace was engraved full of symbols and patterns. Clearly, it was a completed formation. At that moment, a large group of people were in a cluster surrounding an area. Within the group of people, Chu Feng saw a familiar figure. It was Jiang Yini. At present, Jiang Yini had a face full of nervousness as she looked towards the middle of the group. The emperor has come. After someone shouted loudly, the crowd immediately scattered. Only at that time did Chu Feng discover the one in the middle of the crowd was actually Jiang Wushang. The current Jiang Wushang was laid on the ground. His face was deathly white. Blood was flowing out of 7 of his facial orifices, and he was in a coma. An elder with the cultivation in the 7th level of the Heaven Realm was currently treating Jiang Wushang. Wushang, seeing his own son in that state, the emperor was even more anxious. With a flash, he went up to Jiang Wushang and personally diagnosed Jiang Wushang's injuries. And after finished checking Jiang Wushang's injuries, the emperor's tautly stretched face finally relaxed. After personally wiping clean the traces of blood on Jiang Wushang's face, he stood up and said, "Carry him back to his room for resting." "Father, how's my brother? He's fine, right?" Seeing that, Jiang Yini hurriedly asked closely. "Don't worry, it's nothing major. He only received some light internal injuries." The emperor replied, "Ah, this child Wusheng is too stubborn. Before, just as he entered I felt that something was wrong with him and wanted him to back out, but he didn't listen. Luckily, the elder laid a delivery formation on his body, and seeing he could not hold on, he sent him out. Or else." Mentioning that matter, Jiang Yini's face was filled with helplessness and fear. "Princess, just leave it as that. Don't talk about him in such a way. He was also thinking for our Jiang dynasty. After all, right now, the only thing that can save our dynasty is this," the elder in the 7th level of the Heaven Realm said. "Then, what should we do now? If even Prince Wusheng's bloodline density can't endure this pressure, that also means that within the current Jiang dynasty, there is no one who can gain the power of the. Doesn't it mean we are only waiting to die?" A dynasty expert said. "As things have come to this point, we cannot continue dragging this out. My lord, I implore you, send the princesses and princes out of the dynasty right now, and send experts to protect them as they leave the 9 provinces, or else my Jiang dynasty will truly be eradicated." Suddenly, Jiang Hengyuan knelt on the ground and pleaded to the emperor, "Emperor, we implore you." Simultaneously, everyone from the Jiang dynasty knelt down. Seeing that scene, the emperor didn't know what to do and was in an endlessly difficult situation. Wait, but just at that time, Chu Feng stood out, looked towards the crowd and asked, "What's with the you were just talking about?" Chu Feng, this royal bloodline attachment formation, is a formation left behind by my Jiang dynasty's ancestors. When their ages reach the end, the previous emperors would seal the power they cultivated in their entire lives into this formation to maintain the power this formation contains. And as long as a person from the Jiang dynasty enters this royal bloodline attachment formation, the power of the ancestors would attach onto their body, and within a short period of time, that person's cultivation would rise greatly. Originally, this royal bloodline attachment formation was our only hope to save my Jiang dynasty currently, but it is useless, as the royal bloodline attachment formation is not complete. There is extremely great pressure within, and the people who do not have a strong bloodline have no way of enduring the pressure inside. Wusheng can be said to have the most powerful royal bloodline in my current Jiang dynasty, but even though it was him, he could not endure the pressure in this royal bloodline attachment formation. Speaking to that point, the emperor sighed with a face full of helplessness. "My lord, since this royal bloodline attachment formation has such an effect, why not let me give it a try?" Chu Feng said. "What, you want to try this royal bloodline attachment formation?" Hearing those words, the expressions of the emperor as well as everyone from the Jiang dynasty changed, and the gaze they looked at Chu Feng with couldn't help becoming complicated. "Chu Feng, you cannot do that. In order to prevent outsiders from using the power in this royal bloodline attachment formation, when my ancestors first laid this formation, they used special methods. Those who are not a part of my Jiang dynasty will receive multiplied pressure after entering the formation." Jiang Hengyuan reminded, "Multiplied pressure. Then after enduring pressure like that, would it then be possible to gain the power of this formation?" Chu Feng smilingly asked, as if he didn't put the so-called pressure of the formation in his eyes. Hearing those words, Jiang Hengyuan became speechless because even if it was him, he didn't know whether a person not a part of his clan could gain his ancestors' powers after enduring the multiplied pressure. "Chu Feng, accordingly, if you are able to endure the pressure, there is no problem for the ancestors' powers to attach to you. However, because you aren't a part of my dynasty, the power you gain will be greatly diminished, and moreover, it will also be very unstable." Just at that time, the emperor explained, "My lord, if it is truly like that, I, Chu Feng, am willing to give it a try." Chu Feng begged, "Chu Feng, I've taken your intention to heart, but it's better if you don't enter this royal bloodline. attachment formation, because you simply don't know how terrifying the pressure of this royal bloodline attachment formation is. Let's say it like this. Normally, the pressure in this formation is already extremely horrifying before Washeng entered. But if it was some other person, I'm afraid that in the instant that person entered, he would have been heavily injured. I am no exception. And if power like this is multiplied several times, it would simply be the same as a land of certain death. In the moment one enters, that person would become a pool of blood. So, it's best if you don't try. The emperor patiently advised him otherwise. My lord, I've heard the people from the dynasty say that right now, the army of the 3 clans have already entered the borders of the 9 provinces. With their speed, in less than several days, they will arrive at the Jiang dynasty. At that time, would you have any methods of defending? Chu Feng asked while smiling. After hearing Chu Feng's words, the emperor sank into silence. Afterwards, he said with a small smile, "Indeed, right now, we are only waiting for death, and we have no methods to stop the 3 clans' army. But within the clan, we have the teachings of our ancestor. Even if we die, we must guard this land, the continent of the 9 provinces. The teachings of the ancestor cannot be disregarded. So, my Jiang dynasty will not leave this place. But Chu Feng, all of you aren't a part of my dynasty. There is no need for you to stay behind with us as we wait for death. Right now, by coming to support my Jiang dynasty, I am already very grateful. I have taken this kind intention to heart. All of you please leave." "Ho, my lord, since we have come today, we have no plans to leave, and we have already made the preparations to live and die with the Jiang dynasty. Right now, since you don't have any way of defending, this royal bloodline attachment formation can be said to be the only chance. Since death is to the left and also to the right, why not let me try it? Although my cultivation isn't strong, I still grasp some special methods. So perhaps I can endure the pressure of the royal bloodline attachment formation. Even if I fail, then it would only be a death." Chu Feng lightly smiled and said, "Chu Feng, you." Seeing Chu Feng persist in such a way for his Jiang dynasty, and actually not caring about his life or death, the emperor also didn't know what he should do. "My lord, since Chu Feng is insisting, why not let him try it?" "Yea, my lord. After all, a reverse delivery formation can be laid on his body. If he can truly not endure the pressure of the royal bloodline attachment formation, he can be immediately sent out. At that time, he might not definitely die." At that instant, many people from the dynasty started to urge him one after the other. After all, they didn't want the Jiang dynasty to be destroyed just like that. And since Chu Feng had such courage, it at least meant he had some confidence in himself. Besides, they also knew that Chu Feng had some special abilities. After all, he was the only person to gain 2 types of secret skills from the Emperor Tomb. So, at a time like this, they also wanted to find some chance when there was no chance. Even if there was only a 1% possibility of success, they did not want to miss out on it. "Whatever. Since you insist on this, I wouldn't say more. Overall today, everyone in my Jiang dynasty are grateful in our hearts, and we will never forget about your actions." Finally, the emperor also didn't say much, and personally laid a formation on Chu Feng's body. That formation, within a short distance, could send Chu Feng to his side. The formation was called the reverse delivery formation. Normally speaking, it didn't have great uses, but using it on the royal bloodline attachment formation was exactly good. Chu Feng Go. That's the entrance to the royal bloodline attachment formation. If you feel that something is wrong, remember to loudly yell for help. I will immediately send you back here. The emperor pointed at the center of the palace, at the round stone stage which was only half a meter tall, and said, Chu Feng nodded his head with a light smile. Quickly after, lightning flashed in his eyes, and his aura rapidly rose, breaking into the 2nd level of the heaven realm in a blink. Quickly after, Chu Feng used the black tortoise armor technique as well, then started to walk. Step by step, he headed towards the royal bloodline attachment formation. At that instant, Everyone there had their hearts pounding heavily, and they were extremely nervous. Within the vast palace, it was dead silent. The only thing that could be heard was Chu Feng's footsteps. Asterisk ta ta ta. Asterisk 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, 10 steps, 50 steps. Finally, when Chu Feng walked for 50 steps, he successfully stepped onto the stage. Asterisk asterisk, and also at that instant in the silent palace, radiance shot everywhere immediately. All of the symbols started flickering, emitting dazzling brilliance. As for the stone stage Chu Feng stepped on, a faint blue pillar of light charged straight towards the sky. Within the pillar of light, symbols swirled and strands of gas were scuttling everywhere randomly. At that instant, almost everyone on scene held their breaths. Some people couldn't even bear continue looking and closed their eyes, deeply afraid that Chu Feng could not endure the pressure of the formation and would forcibly be crushed into pieces. Look, Chu Feng is fine. He is actually hanging on. Suddenly, someone excitedly cried out, and only at that instant did they discover that Chu Feng already walked to the middle of stone stage at that moment. Moreover, his face was unchanging, as if he didn't receive any disturbances at all. Heavens, this Chu Feng actually held back the pressure of the royal bloodline attachment formation. At that instant, everyone's faces changed greatly, and on all their faces, shock was filled. Especially the people who personally witnessed how Jiang Wushang failed. At that moment they were endlessly shocked. It was because at present, when Chu Feng stood on the stage, the might there was clearly many times stronger compared to when Jiang Wushang stood on it. But with such horrifying pressure, it was as though Chu Feng was unrelated to it all. It was really impossible for them to be not shocked. Wait, look carefully. There's a layer of light on Chu Feng's body. That appearance, could it be one of the secret skills Chu Feng grasped, the Black Tortoise armor technique? Is it possible that the Black Tortoise armor technique has the effect of blocking my royal bloodline attachment formation's pressure? Yeah, right now, although he held back the pressure from the royal bloodline attachment formation, he didn't gain the power of the formation. This likely means that the secret skill is interfering. Someone noticed the faint envelopment of light around Chu Feng's body, and from the special aura, actually determined that it was Chu Feng's secret skill, the Black Tortoise armor technique. Asterisk, however, just as everyone assumed it was the Black Tortoise armor technique helping Chu Feng block the pressure, Chu Feng willed and dissolved his own Black Tortoise armor technique. He used his own body to stand in the center of the stone stage. Look, the cover of light has disappeared. Right now, Chu Feng is truly standing in the formation, but he has still not received any effects from the pressure. Facing that change, their eyes were truly widened, their tongues were tied, and they were completely dumbfounded. But the thing that made them most speechless was that, currently, Chu Feng even turned around in the formation and lightly smiled towards the crowd. Then he did a hand gesture, showing he was fine. The formation that the people from the Jiang dynasty simply could not endure was actually so easily and freely endured by Chu Feng. It really shocked everyone on scene. This Chu Feng is actually this powerful. No wonder he had such confidence, so he can truly hold off the pressure from the royal bloodline attachment formation. At that very instant, the people from the dynasty discussed with one another, as they were thoroughly stunned by Chu Feng. It seems like the old ancestor was correct. This Chu Feng is indeed not simple at all. Perhaps the abnormality 7 years ago was truly caused by him. Within his body, there is indeed horrifying power, or else it would not be possible to endure the pressure of the formation. Jiang Hengyuan's expression was complicated, as he hiddenly said in his heart. At the same time, Jiang Yini, the strongest person in the Jiang dynasty's young generation, the Jiang dynasty's princess, currently also roundly widened her big eyes. Her brows slightly trembled as she said in a low voice, "I never would have thought after such a long time of development in the 9 provinces, the one to finally decide the fate of my Jiang dynasty would be an outsider like him." Although Chu Feng stepping into the royal bloodline attachment formation gave everyone a type of astonishment, It had to be said that it also gave everyone hope. But the royal bloodline attachment formation was not as simple as they imagined. Although, indeed, layers of power started to converge and enter Chu Feng's body after a long time, the speed could be said to be extremely slow. Only when the World Spirit Guild's reinforcements arrive did the converging speed start to increase. However, even before a few days passed, the army of the three clans entered the Han province. Also, very quickly, the troops arrived at the city gates. The war that the Jiang dynasty hoped to face the least finally arrived. Asterisk boom rumble rumble. Boom rumble rumble asterisk within the dynasty's borders. Endless explosions rang out. Everyone within the circumference of several thousand miles could hear the deafening sounds. It was even more terrifying than the sound of thunder. And above the Jiang dynasty's spirit formation, which touched the sky, the explosions were loud to the extreme. Simultaneously, layers of horrifying ripples endlessly burst out above the spirit formation. In the sky, there were several figures, all wearing three different clothes. However, there were a golden and dazzling, royal characters on their foreheads. The three troops were gathered together and were throwing violent attacks towards the Jiang dynasty's spirit formation that enveloped them. They were the troops from the Zhao dynasty, Ji dynasty, and Liu dynasty. Also, as many heaven realm experts, powerful world spiritists, and many horrifying world spirits from various spirit worlds called by the many world spiritists were breaking the formation with their full strengths. Not too far away from the spirit formation, there was a golden chariot. The chariot was pulled by 10 heaven realm monstrous beasts. They were incomparably huge and extremely overbearing. At that moment, they stood in the blue sky, and on the chariot, there was even a huge table of dishes and wine. 3 old men and 3 middle-aged men, a total of 6 people, surrounded the table while drinking and chatting. That sort of relaxed, free, chatting and laughing appearance was as if the nearby overwhelming flames of war was a beautiful scene they were admiring. They were the current emperors and old ancestors of the Zhao dynasty, Liu dynasty, and Ji dynasty. It seems like the Jiang dynasty's old thing truly cannot fight. Or else, with his temper, he should have already come out to face us for the battle right. As the Zhao clan's old ancestor looked at the people from the Jiang dynasty, who had panicking expressions and were endlessly fearful, the corners of his mouth rose to form a hint of a cold smile. He's pitiful enough to be schemed by his own elder brother, but his elder brother is even worse. He truly thought we would provide the priceless year prolongation immoral grasses to him. The old ancestor of the Liu clan similarly smiled mockingly. A smart person gets impaired by his own smartness. He never would have expected that he, who was desperate to prolong his life, would die by our hands. The Jai clan's old ancestor shook his head while smiling. But on that topic, that Jiang dynasty's old thing has always been cunning, and his cultivation is also the strongest within the 4 of us. Is it possible he is feigning death, or pretending that he's injured? The Zhao clan's elder said with a bit of worry. Don't worry this time. I have done plenty of preparation. Since we've come here, we must destroy his Jiang dynasty to avenge our ancestors being killed back then. The Zhai clan's old ancestor said while being full of confidence. Heh, what exactly is your secret weapon? You even made a spirit formation, so I can't even check what it is. As he spoke, the Liu clan's old ancestor cast his gaze behind. Yeah, what actually is that? Don't leave us in suspense. At the same time, the other 3 people in the chariot cast their gazes over. At that place there was similarly a huge chariot. However, on the chariot, there was actually a small-scale palace. A spirit formation was laid outside of the palace, causing them to be unable to determine what exactly was inside. This is a secret weapon, and unless there is no other choice, I will not use it. But if I use it, this Jiang dynasty will definitely be destroyed. The Ji dynasty's old ancestor smilingly said, since it is like that, why not directly use this secret weapon? Why is there a need for us to use up so many resources? The Liu dynasty's old ancestor puzzledly asked. Ho, the reason is very simple. Although this secret weapon is powerful, it harms both them and us. It's almost time. Let us three attack together and break this dog-butt formation. Let us make the Jiang dynasty pay the price for their actions of many years ago. Suddenly, the Ji dynasty's old ancestor leaped, became a blur of light, and came up to the spirit formation. Asterisk boom asterisk, the Ji dynasty's old ancestor was an expert in the 9th level of the heaven realm, a character who infinitely neared the martial lord realm. He suddenly threw out a fist, and it could be said to shake the heaven and the earth. The spirit formation that touched the sky and enveloped the entire Jiang dynasty also violently quivered. I will help you as well. Quickly after, the Liu dynasty's old ancestor and the Zhao dynasty's old ancestor, as well as the 3 emperors, attacked as well. With the combination of 3 people in the 9th level of the heaven realm and 3 people in the 8th level of the heaven realm, the barrier which guarded the Jiang dynasty was in peril. This is bad. If this continues, my Jiang dynasty's protection formation will very quickly be destroyed. Emperor, what should we do? The experts they've sent out this time is too many, not to mention having the 3 old ancestors in the 9th level of the heaven realm to fortify their position. Even without the 3 of them, our Jiang dynasty will still not be able to defeat them. If the protection formation gets destroyed, my Jiang dynasty's several tens of thousands of people will suffer from misery. In a situation like that, everyone cast their gazes towards the emperor, but the emperor was also tightly furrowing his brows, not knowing what the best course of action was. Suddenly, he leaped and flew towards the royal bloodline attachment formation. After he neared the royal bloodline attachment formation, he impatiently asked, "How is it? How is Chu Feng's situation?" The power of this royal bloodline attachment formation is indeed going against Chu Feng. Its merging speed with Chu Feng is extremely slow, and right now, he is only in the 7th level of the heaven realm. But looking at the situation right now, he can very quickly step into the 8th level of the heaven realm. Zhang Tianyi, who was guarding that place, said, "The 8th level of the heaven realm, it will be too late." Hearing Zhang Tianyi's words, and also personally checking Chu Feng's aura, the face of the Jiang dynasty's emperor was instantly like ash, as if the last bit of light within the dark night was also disappearing. Putting aside the fact that even if Chu Feng had the cultivation of the 8th level of the heaven realm, he would simply not be able to defeat the 3 old monsters. Furthermore, with his detection, he discovered that Chu Feng's aura was very unstable. It could be said to be very empty. The formation that their ancestors laid was indeed opposing Chu Feng. Although more or less Chu Feng gained a portion of its power, it was very unstable. In a situation like that, even though Chu Feng's aura could reach the 8th level of the heaven realm, his true battle power was only equivalent to the 6th level of the heaven realm. Not to mention fighting against the 3 old monsters, even the 3 emperors could easily kill Chu Feng. What's wrong? Is it possible that the Jiang dynasty's protection formation won't be able to hold out soon? Seemingly seeing through the emperor's worry, Zhang Tianyi asked, no matter how much stronger the protection formation is, it can't hold back the attacks from 3 people in the 9th level of the heaven realm. I'm afraid it won't last much longer. This is truly the heavens wanting my Jiang dynasty to be destroyed." The emperor longly sighed, then said to Zhang Tianyi, "You and Chu Feng stay here. Do not go out. I will seal this place later, and hopefully it will help you two evade this calamity." "My lord, what do you mean?" Hearing those words, Zhang Tianyi tightly frowned. "My Jiang dynasty has very deep enmity with the Ji dynasty, Liu dynasty, and Zhao dynasty. If they fear this formation and slaughter their way into my dynasty, they will absolutely not leave anyone alive. It would even be kindness to let the people from my dynasty peacefully pass away. Today, my Jiang dynasty is fated to be destroyed. In addition, we will receive suffering. But you and Chu Feng aren't a part of my dynasty. You have done enough for my dynasty, so I don't want to drag you two down with me anymore." The emperor lightly smiled and said, so when he said he was going to seal this place, He didn't want the people from the three dynasties to find Chu Feng and Zhang Tianhe. He wanted them to avoid this catastrophe. Asterisk boom rumble 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 tilde 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 asterisk, but just at that time, a sudden frightening huge explosion rang out. Even the underground palace built deep underground violently swayed. Crap! At that instant, the emperor's expression changed greatly. An unseen type of fear emerged into his eyes, and without saying anything more, he turned around and flew out. After he left the underground palace, he sealed the entrance and also laid a concealment spirit formation. Only after doing that did he fly out of the disguised underground palace. And just as he flew out of the palace, he saw the protection formation that enveloped the Xiang dynasty darken. In a certain area at the western horizon, a huge hole appeared. Broken. The only barrier protecting his Xiang dynasty was broken. At that very instant, the army of the three dynasties, like the tide, surged into his Xiang dynasty's territory. Ha ha ha, the trash of the Xiang dynasty. Today is your last day. Suddenly, an explosive shout rang out in the sky. Quickly after, the army of the three clans started to insanely display all sorts of martial skills, from top to bottom, endlessly throwing them towards the crowd of people. Tilde tilde tilde. No matter how much stronger the Xiang dynasty was, the number of heaven realm experts was limited. Most of them were still in the profound realm, origin realm, and even the spiritual realm. To them, the attacks of a heaven realm expert was simply unstoppable and unavoidable. So when the attacks, which filled the sky, explosively shot towards the ground like a meteor shower, the things being destroyed were not only the luxurious palaces. Countless lives of the Xiang clan were also lost. I will kill you all. In that situation, all of the experts in the Xiang dynasty were furious. Many people in the heaven realm flew up and started to attack the army of the three clans, fighting against them with their lives. However, their strengths were too weak. In front of the three-clan army that had their power fortified by the three old ancestors and the three emperors, even though they were heaven realm experts, what awaited them was only heartless slaughter. Immediately, in the vast Xiang dynasty, sobs continued without end and miserable cries kept on sounding, especially the children's fearful cries. It really showed the powerlessness of the current Xiang dynasty. Despair. That was currently portrayed in all of the Xiang dynasty's adults. All of them knew that the Xiang dynasty was finished. Everyone was finished. The Xiang dynasty that had been thriving for countless generations was going to be destroyed today. In a situation like that, the Xiang dynasty's emperor and its many experts still hadn't rashly attacked. They gathered in the dynasty's core zone, discussing something. Haha, the Xiang dynasty's emperor, your daughter has quite a nice appearance. How about I bring her back and make her my concubine? Suddenly, an explosive shout resounded in the air. It was the emperor of the Zhao dynasty. He led a group of Zhao dynasty experts and rushed to the core zone. Not only did he discover the group of peak experts from the Xiang dynasty, he even had his eyes on the emperor's daughter, xianxia. Hey, Emperor Zhao, this little lady is truly not bad. Not only does she have an appearance like flower and jade, her cultivation is really extraordinary. I also have my eyes on her, so what could we possibly do? Another mad laugh rang out. The emperor of the Liu dynasty also led a group of experts over. Is it not simple? The three of us will go at the same time, and this girl will belong to whoever gets his hands on her first. But I won't do the same as you two. I won't take her as my concubine. I only plan to destroy her cultivation, then reward her to my subordinates so she can accompany them as they search for pleasure. Another figure flew over. It was the Ji dynasty's emperor. I will have the life of whoever dares to touch my daughter. The face of the Xiang dynasty's emperor, who was guarding in front of xianxia, greened from anger. He knew that the three were intentionally mocking him, mocking his Xiang dynasty. But as the Xiang dynasty's emperor, as xianxia's father, he was really unable to endure such humiliation. So he leaped, explosively shot up, released his horrifying battle power of the 8th level of the Heaven Realm and fought against the 3 emperors. Father. At that instant, Jiang Yini's expression flickered and her face was full of worry. As she spoke, she was going to rush into the sky to fight shoulder to shoulder with her father, because no matter how much stronger her father was, when fighting alone against 3 other emperors who had the same cultivation, it was clearly very taxing. In a situation like that, what awaited her father was only death. Princess, do not go. But just as Jiang Yini was going to make her move, Jiang Hengyuan grabbed her wrist and said, "Quickly follow me and leave. We have already prepared a path for escaping. Right now, we will protect you and all the other princesses and princes and leave the dynasty." "No, I will be the same as my father to live and die with the dynasty." Jiang Yini stubbornly refused. "Princess, this is the emperor's command. If you don't believe me, look." As he spoke, Jiang Hengyuan took out a badge of command, and after seeing the badge, Jiang Yini's face immediately froze, turning her head back and looking towards the sky, at her father, who was having a life-and-death battle against the 3 emperors. Her eyes instantly reddened, and very quickly tears fell like rain. There was only a single badge like that, and it was personally made by her father. She even remembered what he told her when he showed her the badge. In the future, no matter who took it to find her, and no matter what they wanted her to do, she had to oblige, because that person would be definitely following his wishes. Moreover, those words were not only spoken from the Jiang dynasty's emperor to Jiang Yini herself. He spoke them to all his sons and daughters, and even to all of the outstanding people in the later generation of the Jiang dynasty. "Princess, quickly follow me. Right now, the emperor is fighting for you, for the final chance. Although, as the emperor, he has to follow the teachings of the ancestor and live and die with the Jiang dynasty. As a father, he hopes that his sons and daughters can continue living. So, ultimately, he went against the ancestors' teachings, handed this badge to me, and told me to protect all of you as you leave this place." Jiang Hengyuan was afraid Jiang Yini didn't understand, so he explained. Boom asterisk, but just at that time, a cry of pain suddenly rang out from the sky. Quickly after, a body fell from above and fiercely shot into the ground's surface. The strong power kept on shattering a palace from the collision, and even left a huge pit in the ground. "Father." At that moment, Jiang Yini loudly howled, then leaped and rushed into the huge pit. Crap! At the same time, many dynasty experts such as Jiang Hengyuan also flew over, because the one who fell from the sky was none other than his Jiang dynasty's emperor. "Yini, your father has been useless. Not only could I not protect the several tens of thousands of clan members, I can't even protect you, my daughter." At that instant, the face of the Jiang dynasty's emperor was of defeat. 7 of his facial orifices had blood flowing out, and his chest was even in a Chinese letter shape. His breastbone was shattered, his skin was cracked, and a large amount of blood was presently flowing out gradually. "No, father in my heart, you are the most excellent father." Jiang Yini's face was filled with tears. He's actually this weak, unable to even hold on for a few rounds. Suddenly, a huge phlegm flew down from the sky, landing on the face of the Jiang dynasty's emperor. It was from the Liu dynasty's emperor. Currently, he was standing in the sky, lightly squinting his eyes, and mockingly examining the Jiang dynasty's emperor, who was heavily injured. "Yeah, I heard his father had overwhelming battle power, and was able to fight against our own fathers without being defeated. So I even thought his son also had quite impressive battle power. However, I didn't expect him to be so useless." The Zhao dynasty's emperor also ridiculed with cold words. "That's right. If I knew he was so useless, there was no need for the 2 of you to attack just now. I myself would have been enough to defeat him." Not only did the Ji dynasty's emperor speak to mock, his face was filled with smug. "All of you should be ashamed of being the masters of clans. Putting aside the fact that all of you joined hands to harm my father, you even so shamelessly speak to mock him. All of you are truly despicable people." seeing her own father being humiliated by them in such a way. Jiang Yini's little face reddened from anger, and she was endlessly furious. The victor is the king, and the loser is the thief. Back then, the humiliation your ancestor gave my ancestor was thousands of times worse than this. The emperor of the Liu dynasty coldly shouted, "Ah, Emperor Liu, where's the need to waste your breath with them? Today, we want them to pay the price for their ancestors' actions. Since this girl is so sharp with her mouth, let me play with her for a while." The Zhao dynasty's emperor coldly laughed, then suddenly dashed towards Jiang Yini. "Protect the princess." Seeing that, Jiang Hengyuan and the other dynasty experts hurriedly flew into the sky. They displayed protection methods by opening a defense spirit formation. "Even a pile of trash dares to block my road. Move." However, the Zhao dynasty's emperor casually palmed, causing the spirit formation laid by the combined power of Jiang Hengyuan and the others to immediately disintegrate. At the same time, the crowd cried out in pain and fell to the side. Their faces were already deathly white, as they were heavily injured. "Haha, little lady, you truly don't have any manners. It's best to let me properly teach you some." The Zhao dynasty's emperor kept on loudly laughing. When he spoke, he had already went up to Jiang Yini. He extended his hand and was actually shamelessly aiming to grab Jiang Yini's protruding two peaks. "You want to teach Princess Yini manners? That will depend whether you have the ability or not." Asterisk boom asterisk, but just at that time, an explosive shout suddenly came from the dynasty's core zone. Simultaneously, black dirt rolled on the surface, and two figures shot out from beneath the ground's surface. One of them had extremely quick speed. Almost with a blink, he arrived in front of the Zhao dynasty's emperor. He punched directly, throwing an attack towards the Zhao dynasty. "Where did this brat come from and dares to disturb this good occasion? Move to the side." Only after turning his head to look did the Zhao dynasty's emperor discover that the one who was approaching was a young man. So he disdainfully snorted coldly, casually waved his hand, wanting to slap the young man to the side. But who would have thought that the young man was actually so powerful? Just as his fist landed on the arm of the Zhao dynasty's emperor, a snapping sound rang out, and the young man had actually snapped the emperor's arm. After that, the power of his punch did not diminish, and rather became even stronger. With a bang, it collided into the face of the Zhao dynasty's emperor. Blood splattered as his head was shattered and split into pieces, and he died immediately. The sudden scene that came shocked all who noticed it, especially the two emperors who were still in the air. Their faces suddenly changed and they loudly questioned, "Who are you?" "The person who will have your lives." Chu Feng coldly smiled, then stuck out his hand and grabbed the air. A burst of boundless suction power explosively surged out. And with that burst of power, the two emperors who were both in the 8th level of the heaven realm actually didn't have any strength to escape. They both fell down and crashed in front of Chu Feng. After the two crashed, Chu Feng suddenly extended his hand again and with two bangs punched the area of their dantian. The two punches caused the Liu dynasty's and Ji dynasty's emperor to immediately cry out. A large mouthful of blood was sprayed as they covered their dantian area with their hands and started to unendingly roll on the ground. Although Chu Feng's two punches didn't destroy their cultivation, it heavily injured the two of them. At least temporarily, they were the same as two useless people, as they lost the battle power they had before. "Chu Feng, you." At that instant, not a single person's face on scene didn't change greatly, because they were able to feel that currently Chu Feng's aura was only in the 8th level of the heaven realm. Moreover, it was extremely unstable. But even so, Chu Feng was still able to easily kill the three emperors if he wished to. To know for the later stages of the heaven realm, the distance between every single level was extremely big. Yet Chu Feng was relying on the unstable cultivation and killed a genuine person in the 8th level of the heaven realm. It was truly difficult for them to be not shocked. Chu Feng did not pay attention to their stunned gazes. He abruptly extended his two arms, formed two eagle's claws with his hands, grabbed the collars of the two emperors and said to them, "Yell for help." What? The two emperors, who were receiving sharp pain, were both taken aback by the words coming from Chu Feng suddenly. Asterisk bam bam asterisk. Seeing that, Chu Feng didn't waste any breath. He raised his arm and gave their faces two big slaps. Afterwards he said, "I told you to yell for help. If you don't, I will destroy the root of your lives." Hearing those words, their faces instantly greened. Despite being unendingly furious, they didn't dare to retort. So they loudly howled towards the sky, "Help!" After those words were spoken, they were like claps of thunder, attracting the attention of everyone in the Jiang dynasty, especially the people from the three clans. They dashed and flew over from the dynasty's core zone. Even the three old ancestors, who didn't attack yet and were just sitting, watching the liveliness, immediately came over. And when the three old ancestors saw the scene on the ground, their originally calm faces couldn't help but change, because they never would have thought that of their three sons at present, one was dead and two were injured. "Who killed my son? I will have his life." Seeing his son, who he meticulously raised for many years, killed by someone, the old ancestor of the Zhao dynasty was incomparably enraged. He furiously howled, and ignoring all reason, he directly threw a punch to the ground. That punch was extremely horrifying. Before he even descended, the ground already intensely trembled. Countless cracks spread, and a large area of land collapsed. Not to mention the people in the profound realm. Even the people in the heaven realm could not hold back such horrifying pressure. At that instant, they were forced to lay on the ground, and they could not stand up. Break. But just at that time, Chu Feng threw out a punch. With a boom, he actually dissolved the palm of the Zhao dynasty's old ancestor with his own power. "Senior Hengyuan, look after these two." Chu Feng threw the two emperors to the front of Jiang Hengyuan. Quickly after, he loudly howled to the sky, "Your son was killed by me. If you can, come." As he spoke, Chu Feng had already risen into the air and fought against the Zhao dynasty's old ancestor. "This brat is truly looking to die." Seeing that, the Liu dynasty's old ancestor coldly snorted, then prepared to attack. Wait. However, before he made his move, he was stopped by the Ji dynasty's old ancestor on the side. After looking down at the two emperors who were under Jiang Hengyuan's control, he sent a mental message to the Liu dynasty's old ancestor, saying, "Look carefully. Your son and my son right now are in their hands. If we attack at this time, they will be in danger. Are we just going to watch as that old guy fights that brat alone? He doesn't seem to be simple." The Liu dynasty's old ancestor was a bit worried for the Zhao dynasty's old ancestor. "Don't worry. Although that brat's battle power is strong, something's off with his aura. If I'm not mistaken, he should have either used special forbidden medicine or used a special formation to borrow some power. It is impossible for him to be victorious." The Ji dynasty's old ancestor said, "That's true. Your observation is really quite detailed." The Liu dynasty's old ancestor looked carefully and discovered that indeed, it was as he said. Chu Feng's aura was very unstable, so only then did he calm down. "Old ancestor of the Liu dynasty, old ancestor of the Ji dynasty, tell your clan members to stop or else I will kill your sons." Jiang Hengyuan was an intelligent person, so in the instant Chu Feng threw the two emperors to him, he understood his intentions. Thus, without hesitation, he currently used heaven power to howl loudly towards the sky. After those words were spoken, all experts from the Liu dynasty and Ji dynasty cast their gazes towards the two old ancestors in the sky. And though the two old ancestors didn't speak, they gestured with their hands. After seeing the hand gestures, the experts from the two clans came to the two old ancestors' side and no longer attacked the people from the Jiang dynasty. In a situation like that, only the people from the Zhao dynasty were still attacking the Jiang dynasty. But as the emperor was already dead, and the old ancestor was being bound, The Zhao dynasty itself was clearly unable to defeat the Jiang dynasty. With the assistance of many monstrous beasts and many World Spirit Guild experts, the Jiang dynasty's situation quickly turned from bad to good and actually started to slaughter the people from the Zhao dynasty. Liu clan, Jai clan, what are you doing? Why aren't you attacking and helping me kill this brat? Noticing that his two allies were actually merely observing with their hands in their sleeves, the old ancestor of the Zhao dynasty furiously howled. Sai, your opponent is only a brat, and he only has the cultivation of the 8th level of the heaven realm. If the three of us join hands to take care of a brat like him, and this gets known, we will not be able to avoid being the laughingstock in other people's mouths. It's better if you take care of him yourself, the Ji dynasty's old ancestor said while smiling. Yeah, brother Zhao, that brat only borrowed some special power, and it isn't his real cultivation. I'm sure with your abilities, it shouldn't be hard to defeat him. The Liu dynasty's old ancestor also smiled. You two old things are indeed not trustworthy. Seeing his own clan members being reversely killed currently, the Zhao dynasty's old ancestor grinded his teeth from anger. Ha, old bastard, your allies aren't too reliable. They are already selling you out so quickly. As Chu Feng fought against the Zhao dynasty's old ancestor, he sent a mental message to ridicule. 1. Referring to the area of their willies, HMPH. Brat, don't even think of being arrogant. Even if they don't help out, I can still easily kill you and avenge my son. The old ancestor of the Zhao dynasty flipped his palm. A silver-colored pike then appeared within his hand. The pike was covered with symbols. As the symbols and radiance swirled, they emitted a unique, powerful aura. It was a mastered elite armament. Quickly after, the Zhao dynasty's old ancestor waved both of his arms. The tip of the pike trembled, then tens of thousands of pike tips shot out. Like a pointed white-colored storm, they densely flew towards Chu Feng. The stronger one was, the greater they could show the might of the elite armament, and in the hands of the Zhao dynasty's old ancestor, the expert in the 9th level of the heaven realm, the elite armament could be said to have shown its strongest power. So when the tens of thousands of pike tips appeared, the sky and earth trembled, the weather changed, and the might shown was extremely frightening. At that instant, almost everyone in the Jiang dynasty broke out in a cold sweat. For Chu Feng, because the attacks of the Zhao dynasty's old ancestor were indeed very terrifying. However, Chu Feng did not evade nor dodge. He clenched to form a fist, then the Asura ghost axe was grasped within his hand. Afterwards, he waved his arm, and countless black-colored blades of light surged out from his axe. When the black-colored blades of light interweaved with the tens of thousands of pike tips, instantly, explosions burst out, ripples spread endlessly, and even the remnants themselves caused several people to die. Boom, but suddenly, within the ripples, there were actually more pike tips shooting out and flying towards Chu Feng. The attacks that the Zhao dynasty's old ancestor made actually broke through Chu Feng's black-colored blade of light. Whoosh, in a situation like that, Chu Feng also lightly furrowed his brows. He hurriedly used the dragon traveling through 9 heavens and became a blur of light. He flew towards the distance and avoided the attacks. Indeed, although this brat's battle power is extremely powerful, after all, his aura is unstable and his cultivation is 1 level weaker. He will definitely not beat that old Zhao guy. Seeing that scene, the corners of the Liu dynasty's old ancestor's mouth rose to form a hint of a relieved smile. Although he did not interfere, in reality, he was hoping that the Zhao dynasty's old ancestor would win because right now the Liu dynasty and the Ji dynasty were being threatened by the Jiang dynasty, so they were unable to attack them. The ones able to attack the Jiang dynasty was only the Zhao dynasty. As long as the Zhao dynasty's old ancestor could defeat Chu Feng within the Jiang dynasty, there would be no one who could hold the Zhao dynasty back. Even if the two of them didn't do anything, the Zhao dynasty itself could easily eradicate the Jiang dynasty. Arrogant brat, Let me see where you are escaping to." Seeing his attacks were pressuring Chu Feng, the Zhao dynasty's old ancestor even became conceited. The silver-colored pike in his hand endlessly waved, madly stabbing towards Chu Feng. But it was useless, as he underestimated Chu Feng's speed. The speed of Chu Feng's dragon traveling through 9 heavens climbed by many times along with the great rise of his cultivation. In a situation like that, no matter how much stronger the elite armament of the Zhao dynasty's old ancestor was, he was unable to harm Chu Feng in the slightest, and the attacks were all evaded by Chu Feng. "Damned brat, are you the reincarnation of a monkey? Do you only know how to run everywhere?" After the old ancestor's attacks were dodged several times, his eyes could spit fire from being furious as he gnashed his teeth. "Old bastard, your abilities are inferior, so you start insulting people. You have truly wasted so many years of living, and you lack any good qualities. This young master here has quick speed, but what can you do about it? If you can do something about it, go ahead. If you can't, then just accept it. Just from running, I can run you to death." Chu Feng didn't feel shame from escaping. Rather, he mocked the inferior speed of the Zhao dynasty's old ancestor. "Ignorant brat, don't even think of being arrogant. Do you truly think only you have bodily martial skills?" The Zhao dynasty's old ancestor coldly snorted, then stepped on air, and while holding the silver-colored pike, he became a blur of light and rushed towards Chu Feng. His speed was actually a lot quicker than Chu Feng's dragon traveling through 9 heavens. This is bad. After all, he is truly in the 9th level of the heaven realm, a character who infinitely nears the martial lord realm. With Chu Feng's currently unstable cultivation of the 8th level of the heaven realm, I'm afraid he will not be able to defeat the old ancestor. Seeing the Zhao dynasty's old ancestor, who was speedily chasing and approaching Chu Feng bit by bit, xianxia and the others all tightly knitted, their brows breaking out in cold sweat for Chu Feng. "All of you don't understand my junior Chu Feng." But just at that time, Zhang Tianyi, who had appeared along with Chu Feng, smiled. What do you mean by that?" After hearing Zhang Tianyi's words, they revealed puzzled expressions. "Just look. Although this person has very powerful strength, when he is against my junior Chu Feng, he will definitely be defeated." On the corners of Zhang Tianyi's mouth, he still wore the light smile that was filled with confidence. And after hearing his words, although Jiang Yini and the others still had their doubts, it had to be said that their tense hearts did indeed calm down quite a bit. They didn't say anything more, and continued casting their gazes towards the sky. Just at that moment, the Zhao dynasty's old ancestor was less than 100 meters away from Chu Feng. Furthermore, the pike in his hand quivered once again, and like storms and pear blossoms falling from trees, they shot out. Crap! Seeing that, Chu Feng's face changed greatly as he revealed an unsettled expression, because at such a distance, he was already unable to dodge the attack of the Zhao dynasty's old ancestor. "I will kill you." In a situation like that, Chu Feng furiously howled and endlessly waved the Asura ghost axe in his hand. He actually rushed towards the old ancestor, akin to a fish doing whatever it took to break the net surrounding it, and appearing as if he wanted to die with the old ancestor by dragging him down with him. "Ignorant brat, if you want to bet your life, you must also have the strength to do so." However, seeing the many black-colored blades of light flying from the Asura ghost axe, the smile on the face of the Zhao dynasty's old ancestor became wider and wider, because there was simply no way of fighting against his pike tips by only relying on attacks such as the black-colored blades of light. Chu Feng's current action was simply suicidal, but he didn't notice that despite having a panicking expression on his face, the corners of Chu Feng's mouth formed a hint of an unperceivable cold smile. Just as the pike tips were going to break through Chu Feng's black-colored blades of light, he suddenly put away the Asura ghost axe that was in his hand, then opened his palm and suddenly pushed forward towards the Zhao dynasty's old ancestor. White tiger slaughtering technique. Asterisk Wueau ~~~. The cry of a tiger resounded as white-colored gas explosively shot out from Chu Feng's palm. The white-colored gas kept on changing, and at the end, it transformed into a huge striped white tiger's claw. That move was precisely Chu Feng's offensive secret skill, the white tiger slaughtering technique. The white tiger slaughtering technique was peerless in offensive power, especially as Chu Feng's cultivation grew. Its power rose accordingly as well. In front of it, the pike tips that the elite armament gave off was actually extremely feeble. Before it even neared, it was forcefully fragmented. Crap, this might. Is it possible that it's a secret skill from the legends? At that instant, the face of the Zhao dynasty's old ancestor changed greatly. The calm expression he had before could no longer be seen, and he turned around with his feet and wanted to escape. Because, within the white tiger slaughtering technique, he was able to feel extremely horrifying power. So horrifying that even he didn't dare to block it head-on. But presently, it was too late. At that moment, the distance between him and Chu Feng was only dozens of meters. As the white tiger slaughtering technique's shape was already formed, it was impossible for him to dodge at such a distance. Boom so, just as the Zhao dynasty's old ancestor turned around, the white tiger slaughtering technique already flew over, and it ferociously collided into his back. Poof at that instant. The Zhao dynasty's old ancestor immediately cried out in pain. He opened his mouth, and fresh red blood shot out his mouth like a pillar. At the same time, crackling sounds came from various places on his body. The bones and organs in his entire body at many places were forcibly shattered from the shock. Eat another one of my attacks. Roar tilde. After the palm, Chu Feng quickly threw another. The white tiger slaughtering technique this time was a lot stronger than before, and the already heavily injured Zhao dynasty's old ancestor naturally could not defend against Chu Feng's strike. So he yelled loudly, "Quickly help me!" But it was too late. Just as his voice was going to sound yet didn't. Chu Feng's second white tiger slaughtering technique already collided and fiercely crashed into his body. Bang this time. He couldn't even cry out in pain. With a muffled explosion, he became a pool of blood and splattered everywhere from the high sky. Dead, the expert in the 9th level of the Heaven Realm, the old ancestor of the Zhao dynasty, was killed by Chu Feng just like that. Heavens, he actually did it. With the unstable cultivation of the 8th level of the Heaven Realm, killed the Zhao dynasty's old ancestor, who was in the 9th level of the Heaven Realm. Personally seeing that scene, the Zhang dynasty crowd all roundly widened their eyes. Their mouths were very widely opened, and their faces were filled with shock. It was because it was something that they felt was impossible, yet just now, Chu Feng finished such an impossible thing in front of their faces. I told you that you underestimated my junior Chu Feng too much. With his talent, even if his cultivation is unstable, with the 8th level of the Heaven Realm challenging someone in the 9th level of the Heaven Realm alone, there is absolutely no problem. He only pretended to be weak, because he wanted to quickly take care of the Zhao dynasty's old ancestor. When his guard was lowered, then he made an unexpected surprise attack. It could be said that for this battle, the Zhao dynasty's old ancestor not only lost in terms of cultivation, he lost even more in terms of tactics. This is the suppression of intelligence, and the strength of intelligence is also a part of power. Zhang Tianyi lightly smiled and said. Moreover, he wore a touch of smug on his face, as if the person who defeated the Zhao dynasty's old ancestor was him. It seems like we truly underestimated Chu Feng. After hearing Zhang Tianyi's words, everyone looked at Chu Feng in another light. They never would have thought that Chu Feng, who was only 17 years old, actually had such abundance of fighting experience, and actually used tactics to quickly kill an old ancestor who was over 100 years old. Ancestor, you killed my clan's emperor and you also killed my clan's old ancestor. I will kill you. I will butcher you. At that instant, the people from the Zhao dynasty were incomparably enraged. After the emperor was killed, and even the old ancestor was killed. They really went insane. So, within the dynasty, all of the Zhao dynasty's experts surrounded Chu Feng, and with furious howls as well as dense killing intent, they aimed to kill Chu Feng. Good timing. However, facing the Zhao dynasty's members who were surrounding and attacking him, Chu Feng only returned a large smile, then formed a fist with one hand. The elite armament, the Asura ghost axe, appeared once again, and as he waved it, blades of black light appeared. The areas the black light passed caused the air to tremble and to crack. The people who touched it did not become pools of blood, but mists of blood, or were forcibly cut into pieces. Even the emperor was killed by Chu Feng with one strike, and even the old ancestor couldn't defeat Chu Feng. So there was no need to mention the experts of the Zhao dynasty. So-called experts like them, to the current Chu Feng, were useless no matter how many came. With only a blink, over half of the experts sent by the Zhao dynasty were cut down, and people who had fear grow in their hearts and wanted to escape were also killed by the Jiang dynasty's experts. This brat has very vicious methods. Not only is his strength overwhelming, his mentality far surpasses those in the same generation. In the future, he will definitely have great achievements. I never would have thought that such a character would appear in the Jiang dynasty. Seeing Chu Feng, who was greatly massacring, yet didn't even frown a bit, the Ji dynasty's old ancestor started to feel bursts of uneasiness, because a character like him would be best to be befriended. If he were to be an enemy, there would be countless future problems. And looking at Chu Feng's relationship with them right now, it was clearly the latter. Brat, what is your name? At the same time, the old ancestor of the Liu dynasty was also shocked by Chu Feng's action, and actually spoke to inquire Chu Feng's name. Chu Feng. Chu Feng loudly replied. Chu Feng, are you a part of the Jiang dynasty? The Liu dynasty's old ancestor asked with shock. I am indeed not a part of the Jiang dynasty, but I am a part of the continent of the 9 provinces. Chu Feng replied with a light smile. Hearing Chu Feng's response, the face of the Ji dynasty's old ancestor turned to joy as he hurriedly said, My friend Chu Feng, today, we are only ending a grudge from the past with the Jiang dynasty. This matter is unrelated to you from the start. How about this? As long as you don't interfere with today's matters, my Ji dynasty and the Liu dynasty will promise to give you 200,000 heaven beads. How about it? What, 200,000 heaven beads? Hearing those words, the people from the Jiang dynasty couldn't help but longly gasp. At the same time, expressions of worry also emerged onto their faces. 200,000 heaven beads. It was a huge number. If one were to ask how much his Jiang dynasty would have after selling all their wealth, they would only get 100,000 heaven beads. But right now, the 2 dynasties were actually taking out 200,000 heaven beads. Even if they didn't want to worry, they couldn't. After all, at present, Chu Feng was their only hope in saving the Jiang dynasty. If Chu Feng accepted the enticement and agreed to not interfere with this matter, their Jiang dynasty would certainly be destroyed. 200,000 heaven beads. You are truly quite generous, but you look down on me too much. Am I, Chu Feng, a person who forgets about camaraderie after seeing money? However, what relieved the Jiang dynasty crowd was that, without even thinking, Chu Feng refused immediately. It had to be said that the favorable impression on Chu Feng from the several tens of thousands of Jiang dynasty members rose to the extreme, even to the state of adoration. My friend Chu Feng, do you mean that you will interfere with today's matters no matter what? At that instant, the sword-like brows of the Ji dynasty's old ancestor slanted inwards, and a hint of killing intent emerged into his eyes. Ah, don't say it like that. Actually, I, Chu Feng, only want to spar alone with the 2 of you. Old ancestor of the Ji dynasty, can you give me some pointers? Chu Feng clasped his hands towards the Ji dynasty's old ancestor. Ha 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 ha, tilde tilde tilde. After hearing those words, the Ji dynasty's old ancestor suddenly faced the sky and loudly laughed. Only after laughing for a good while did he say to Chu Feng, "You brat, you've truly thought of a good plan, coercing us with our son so we can't attack. Then in the name of sparing, fight against us one-on-one. Are you preparing to also spar with him after killing me? Then after killing him, kill my son and his son as well as everyone from our two clans?" Facing the words of the Ji dynasty's old ancestor, Chu Feng did not reply. He smilingly looked at the Liu dynasty's old ancestor and said, "Old ancestor of the Liu dynasty, don't worry. As long as you don't interfere when I spar with the Ji dynasty's old ancestor, after the sparring finishes, I will definitely release your son." After hearing Chu Feng's words, his expression changed, and only after a good while of hesitation did he say, "Are your words true? Do not get lured into his trap. Right now, you and I must join hands to handle him, or else if my Ji dynasty gets destroyed, your Liu dynasty will absolutely not be able to escape either." Seeing that the Liu dynasty's old ancestor was actually moved by Chu Feng's words, the Ji dynasty's old ancestor quickly, laboriously, urged him otherwise. "But I cannot ignore the life of my son." Hearing that, the Liu dynasty's old ancestor said to the Ji dynasty's old ancestor, with a face full of helplessness, "You have so many sons, so can you not lose just this one?" The Ji dynasty's old ancestor howled, "Of course I can't. This is the son that I have carefully raised for many years, my most excellent son." The Liu dynasty's old ancestor replied, You. The Ji dynasty's old ancestor was not lightly angered. Only after continuously saying 3 U's did he stabilize his emotions and said, "You are truly blind, too blind. Is the life of a single son worth more than tens of thousands of your Liu dynasty's lives? Is it more important than the mission of vengeance for your ancestor?" At that instant, the Liu dynasty's old ancestor went into silence once again. "Do not hesitate anymore. If the emperor's gone, you can continue developing. But if the dynasty is gone, everything is gone. Do you want to become the Liu dynasty's criminal, hated for eternity? Right now, that old thing Zhao has died, and even the experts of the Zhao dynasty have died. If you and I join powers and also destroy this Jiang dynasty, coincidentally, the wealth and territory of the two clans can be evenly split between us two. You only need to give up one son. Not only can you protect the Liu dynasty, you can even become an unprecedented character who has done a great deed for the Liu dynasty. Your future generations will see you a model, see you as a hero." Seeing the Liu dynasty's old ancestor being moved, the Ji dynasty's old ancestor hurriedly continued urging, "Father, go ahead. For my Liu clan, so what if I'm sacrificed?" Just at that time, the Liu dynasty's emperor, who was being held hostage by Jiang Hengyuan, actually loudly yelled as well, "Old ancestor Liu, listen to my father. That Chu Feng brat is cunning, and even if you stand on the side and do nothing but watch, he will absolutely not let you go." At the same time, the Ji dynasty's emperor also loudly yelled, "Fine. You and I will join hands to kill this brat." Finally, the Liu dynasty's old ancestor bit down on his teeth, and after making a decision, he went first and flew towards Chu Feng. That's right." Seeing that, the Ji dynasty's old ancestor rejoiced and didn't hesitate as well. Quickly after, he followed. "Whatever. Today, I shall fight against 2 as 1 and spar with you too. But the people from the Ji dynasty and Liu dynasty, listen up. When I spar with your old ancestors, do not touch the Jiang dynasty, or else your emperor's head might not stay attached." Chu Feng was not afraid, and after a loud yell, he held the Asura ghost axe and fought against the 2 old ancestors. At first, seeing the 2 old ancestors make their move, Jiang Hengyuan prepared to immediately behead the 2 emperors. But after hearing Chu Feng's words, he hesitated for a bit. And when the experts from the 2 clans who were originally all ready to go, yet didn't attack because of Chu Feng's words, Jiang Hengyuan thoroughly dispelled the thought of killing the 2 emperors. Chu Feng is truly impressive. This sort of thinking, even I feel inferior. At that instant, Jiang Hengyuan endlessly admired Chu Feng because Chu Feng was really too sharp. Although threatening the two old ancestors with the two emperors failed, with a turn of words, he used the two emperors to hold the army of the two clans. And if it wasn't for Chu Feng who suddenly spoke, and if Jiang Hengyuan killed the two emperors, as Chu Feng faced the two old ancestors for battle, the army of the two clans would definitely also fight against the Jiang dynasty with their lives. With the Jiang dynasty's current situation, they would only have the advantage if they fought against a single clan. But if they fought against two clans on their own, they would definitely be disadvantaged. In addition, all of the people from the two clans were experts, whereas many in the Jiang dynasty were weak. So if they fought, they would definitely have high casualties. So that was why he admired Chu Feng. It could be said that once again, Chu Feng saved the people from his Jiang dynasty. As for the two old ancestors, although they already made the preparations for sacrificing their sons, if they didn't need to sacrifice them, naturally, they didn't want the situation to be like a dead fish broken net, of which either the fish dies or the net breaks. Instead, as long as they kill Chu Feng first, then destroy the Jiang dynasty, it would not be too late. So they didn't order their clan members to attack, and only fought against Chu Feng with their full strengths. But they could do nothing as they underestimated Chu Feng. Although their strength was extremely strong after joining hands, and after seeing Chu Feng's secret skill, they didn't dare to be careless around Chu Feng, and they very seriously faced him, fully concentrating on the battle. They were still unable to gain the slightest bit of advantage. Haha, Chu Feng, you little boy, you are truly not bad. I do admire you more and more. You are actually able to fight evenly against these two guys with such an unstable aura. Eggy, who was in Chu Feng's body, also sighed in admiration towards Chu Feng's battle power because she could understand the most how empty Chu Feng's current cultivation was. To be more precise, Chu Feng, at this moment, simply couldn't be said to be really in the 8th level of the heaven realm. Moreover, the power gained from the royal bloodline attachment formation was extremely unstable, and looking at certain angles, it seriously damaged Chu Feng's battle power. And that was Chu Feng. If it was a normal person, not to mention fighting in such a way, their life would possibly even be endangered because of the power. So that was why Eggy was so surprised, because it was Chu Feng who stabilized the unstable power to the extreme. Chu Feng's power of control forced her to be so surprised. Senior Hengyuan, I can hold these two old things. Take this chance and quickly move the dynasty's young generation away right now. Suddenly, Jiang Hengyuan's expression changed. He received Chu Feng's mental message, and after receiving the mental message, Jiang Hengyuan didn't delay. He hurriedly and hiddenly started arrangements. He wanted to move the outstanding young generation of the dynasty out without anyone knowing. But at present, within the dynasty, the people from the Liu dynasty and Ji dynasty were already there. It wasn't impossible to want to secretly move the young generation away, but it required a very long time. At first, Jiang Hengyuan was even worried that there was no time. But what everyone didn't expect was Chu Feng actually fought against the two old ancestors for 10 full days and nights. The astonishing battle of 10 days and 10 nights shocked everyone there, because the attacks of the two old ancestors were extremely fierce, and that type of battle could be said to be very straining. It had to be said that in the 10 days, the strengths of the two old ancestors were exhausted quite a bit, but compared to them too, Chu Feng's face was pale white, and his aura was getting weaker and weaker. If it was a normal situation, not to mention only 10 days and 10 nights, even if it was 10 more days and nights, Chu Feng would not be like that. He would definitely be more spirited than the two old ones. But now, after all, Chu Feng was using borrowed power, and it was even extremely unstable power. In a situation like that, being able to withstand 10 days and 10 nights could absolutely be said to be a miracle. Asterisk boom rumble rumble asterisk suddenly, another explosion burst out in the sky. At the same time, a berserk energy ripple spread circularly, and in the areas it passed, the air twisted. Within the 10 days, Explosions such as that could be said to have rang out countless times, but this time, it was especially eye-catching because after this explosion, because of physical exhaustion, Chu Feng was finally unable to evade in time and was struck by the remnant ripple, causing him to fall from the sky. Chu Feng, seeing that, Jiang Hengyuan hurried, leaped, and caught Chu Feng into his embrace. But in the instant he held Chu Feng, Jiang Hengyuan's expression changed because he could feel how weak the current Chu Feng was. He was truly extremely weak. Furthermore, the power he gained from the royal bloodline attachment formation was disappearing rapidly. Very soon, Chu Feng's aura turned from the 8th level of the heaven realm to the 2nd level of the heaven realm, and after the lightning in his eyes disappeared, Chu Feng's aura continued to slide down. He returned to his real cultivation, the 9th level of the profound realm. Chu Feng, are you okay? After Chu Feng landed on the ground, everyone surrounded him. Within the gaze they looked at Chu Feng with. There was worry, there was pain, but even more, there was gratitude. Although right now, they were still unable to avoid death. Within the time of 10 days, they already secretly moved Jiang Yini and the others from the dynasty's young generation away, and that chance was completely fought for by Chu Feng himself with his own strength. Don't worry, I'm fine. Although he no longer had the power of the royal bloodline attachment formation, Chu Feng's face turned quite better, and that was exactly because Chu Feng didn't need to exhaust extremely large amounts of strength to stabilize the power. Ha, so it was a brat in the 9th level of the profound realm. You truly do have quite some skill to be actually able to stabilize such powerful aura. With a cultivation like that, and forcefully fight against us too for 10 days and 10 nights. But sadly at the end, the young is ignorant. You didn't know that we were intentionally dragging the battle out, dragging it until the power that didn't belong to you disappeared. Ha. Suddenly the smug laughter of the Ji dynasty's old ancestor rang out. Ho, really? You truly think that you will definitely win today? Chu Feng suddenly coldly smiled. Brat, do you think you still have a chance to win? The Liu dynasty's old ancestor asked mockingly. I naturally knew that you were intentionally stalling for time. But you absolutely would not have thought that I too was also intentionally stalling for time. Chu Feng coldly smiled and said, You were stalling for time as well. What's the point of you stalling for time? Oh, I know. So you were using that time to move some people of the Jiang dynasty away. Too naive. It is but a group of people in the young generation. Do you truly think they can successfully escape? If I want to eradicate them, they will absolutely not be able to escape this continent of the 9 provinces. After the Ji dynasty's old ancestor scanned downwards at the ground, he saw some clues. Wrong. The reason why I stalled for time was not for that. It was to wait for reinforcements which can destroy all of you. Chu Feng lightly smiled and said, Reinforcements? Who are you scaring? Right now, in the continent of the 9 provinces, is it possible that you can still find a person who can defeat us? It had to be said that the word reinforcement caused the Liu dynasty's old ancestor to panic a bit, because, after constant fighting for 10 days and 10 nights, he truly experienced the unsimpleness of Chu Feng. Although he and the Ji dynasty's old ancestor did indeed drag the battle out, such actions was a method within no methods. At first, the two of them originally wanted to quickly kill Chu Feng with their combined powers and solidify their state of victory, but they could do nothing as Chu Feng was really too strong. Not only was his battle power not weak, his reactions were extremely quick as well. Not only were the two of them unable to suppress Chu Feng in terms of battle power, their tactics were seen through one after the other by Chu Feng. In the battle of 10 days, they could truly be said to be setting up camp at every step, as they very gradually advanced forward, and their minds were thoroughly exhausted. So when Chu Feng said he had reinforcements, he believed it. Not only did he believe it, he also panicked. In this continent of the 9 provinces, if there was even a young man like Chu Feng, perhaps there was truly an even more powerful person. Do not believe this brat's nonsense. If his Jiang dynasty had reinforcements, they would have already appeared. How could they have let us destroy the formation? The Ji dynasty's old ancestor said. HMPH, it's up to you whether you believe it or not. Right now, a catastrophe is already heading your way, and you won't make it out in time even if you retreat right now. Chu Feng did not explain as well, and only continued to coldly smile and speak, as if he had already seen the scene of the two clans being annihilated. A catastrophe is heading our way. From what I see, a catastrophe is heading your way, you brat. Without temporarily gained power from other places, what can you use to fight against me? Watch my casual move of a finger crush you to death. The Ji dynasty's old ancestor waved his sleeve, stuck out his finger, and prepared to attack Chu Feng. I would quite like to see who dares to touch Chu Feng. But just at that time, a thunder-like explosive shout suddenly burst out from the distant horizon, and at the same time, an enormous aura quickly followed, the 9th level of the heaven realm. At that instant, the faces of almost everyone on scene changed greatly, especially the Ji dynasty's and the Liu dynasty's old ancestors. They had panicking expressions. It was because they could both clearly feel that the aura of the 9th level of the heaven realm was speedily approaching. Heavens, is it possible that what Chu Feng said was true, and he truly has reinforcements? At that instant, let alone the people from the Ji dynasty and Liu dynasty, even the crowd of the Jiang dynasty were endlessly shocked. Originally, they also thought that Chu Feng's words were for scaring the people from the two clans. But looking at the situation now, what Chu Feng said was true. Just at that time, a dragon's cry suddenly rang out. The formation enveloping the dynasty immediately dissipated, and quickly after, an azure light flew over from the clouds and only stopped after arriving above Chu Feng and the others. Heavens, this is. However, after seeing the original shape of the azure light, everyone couldn't help but gasp deeply because, at that very instant, what appeared above them was an incomparably huge azure dragon. Although the azure dragon was condensed and formed by azure-colored gas, the dragon scales, the dragon claws, the overbearing state, it was simply vivid and lifelike, and not too far off from a real dragon. On the head of the azure dragon, two figures stood there. Many people on scene who were from the continent of the 9 provinces recognized one of them, the big brother of Chu Feng, the expert in the 8th level of the heaven realm, the monstrous Monkey King. And in front of the monstrous Monkey King, there stood an old man who had white and gray hair. He held a fly whisk, wore a robe, and had an unsecular air around him. Who are you? Seeing that person, the Ji dynasty's old ancestor also tightly frowned. Although they were both in the 9th level of the heaven realm, he felt a threatening feeling from the old man. His opponent's cultivation was very strong, already infinitely nearing the martial lord realm, an existence that was going to become a martial lord. Facing his question, the azure-robed old man waved the whisk in his hand, then lightly smiled and said, "My name remains the same regardless of anything. I am the Azure Dragon Founder." Azure Dragon Founder. Hearing that name, a large commotion was instantly created within the crowd. Everyone examined the azure-robed old man on the dragon head again. Even the people from the Ji dynasty and Liu dynasty slightly frowned, and their eyes lit up. It was because the name Azure Dragon Founder was really too famous. So famous that not only the continent of the 9 provinces, even the several continents surrounding it heard of that name, especially some with higher positions. They knew that the Azure Dragon Founder was a legend in the continent of the 9 provinces, the strongest person 1,000 years ago in the 9 provinces, an expert who almost stepped into the martial lord realm. You said you're the Azure Dragon Founder. The Ji dynasty's old ancestor tightly frowned, and with an extremely solemn gaze, he examined the Azure Dragon Founder. That's right, I am the Azure Dragon Founder. He lightly smiled. There were not many emotional changes on his face. Like the light wind and faint clouds, his expression was serene. What a joke! The Azure Dragon Founder is a character 1,000 years ago. Although your cultivation is similar to his, you are only taking his name to scare us. If you are truly the Azure Dragon Founder, Haven't you lived for 1,000 years? The Liu dynasty's old ancestor spoke with a face of distrust. Completely, he felt that the Azure Dragon founder was lying. Haha, the Azure Dragon that made my name is under my feet right now, yet you actually don't believe I'm the Azure Dragon founder. Whatever, whatever. If you believe me, fine. If you don't believe me, that's fine as well. All of you are people who will die soon anyway. Suddenly, the Azure Dragon founder flung the fly whisk in his hand, causing the surrounding space to change. Then a layer of boundless heaven power shot out, and with powerful might, pressed towards the old ancestors of the Ji dynasty and Liu dynasty. Such strong power. At that instant, the two old ancestors were able to feel the power of the Azure Dragon founder's single strike. So they didn't dare to delay, and both revolved the heaven power in their bodies and made extremely powerful counterattacks. Jai clan heaven flipping palm, Liu clan heaven ruling fist. One fist and one palm were thrown out at the same time. Instantly, the entire world trembled, the weather changed, and quite some might was created. It was because those two martial skills were rank martial skills. Rank martial skills were already extremely powerful martial skills, and when two experts in the 9th level of the heaven realm used them, the might was naturally unstoppable. Asterisk boom asterisk finally. The two rank martial skills interweaved with the heaven power that the Azure Dragon founder sent out. But after an explosion, the attacks of the Ji dynasty's old ancestor and the Liu dynasty's old ancestor were shattered. But the might of the attack that the Azure Dragon founder sent out did not diminish, continuing to press towards the two old ancestors. Seeing that scene, the two old ancestors' expressions changed greatly. They hurriedly caused radiance to flash in their palms as they took out their mastered elite armaments. Quickly after, human and weapon combined into one, they explosively yelled and made extremely horrifying blades of light. Asterisk two blades of light streaked through the air, making ear-piercing sounds. Even sparks were made by the friction through the air, and even the sky and earth could not hold back such vast might. Asterisk boom asterisk another huge explosion, and the sky and earth trembled once again. But this time, the two blades of light successfully canceled out the heaven power sent by the Azure Dragon founder. But at that instant, looking back at the Azure Dragon founder and the faces of the two old ancestors, they were completely different. A light smile was still worn on the Azure Dragon founder's face, like the gentleness of the wind and the faintness of the clouds. It was not diminished, nor should it have been. On the other hand, the two old ancestors had deathly white faces, foreheads full of sweat, and within their aged eyes, fear and uneasiness glittered. Even the people on scene widened their mouths from amazement, because the attack that the Azure Dragon founder sent out just now was clearly an extremely casual attack. Yet such a casual attack had to be dissolved by the two old ancestors using their rank martial skills, once as well as the strongest slice from their mastered elite armaments. Although they were both in the 9th level of the heaven realm, the difference in battle power was too big. Those who had eyes could tell who was the strong one and who was the weak within the three people. He's too strong. Strength like this simply, infinitely approaches the martial lord realm. This is a true expert who nears the martial lord realm, and it's likely with just a tiny bit more, he will become a martial lord. Jiang Hengyuan and many other dynasty experts said with faces full of shock. He's the Azure Dragon founder. He is, indeed, the Azure Dragon founder who swept through the continent of the 9 provinces 1,000 years ago, and even my Jiang dynasty's old ancestor was weaker than him. Suddenly, the Jiang dynasty's emperor spoke. Although back then he was heavily injured after 10 days of healing, he already recovered quite a bit. What, my lord, you said he's the Azure Dragon founder. Truly, the Azure Dragon founder. But hasn't the Azure Dragon founder died for 1,000 years already? Hearing the emperor's words, the already shocked faces of the people from the Jiang dynasty instantly became more shocked. There's no mistake. Look carefully. What's under his feet isn't a martial skill. It's a secret skill. And the Azure Dragon dashing technique is the unique skill that made him famous. So he is definitely the Azure Dragon founder. The Emperor explained, "Everyone, don't doubt anymore. He is indeed my Azure Dragon School's founder, the Azure Dragon founder. My school's old ancestor has not died yet." Just at that time, Chu Feng spoke. Heavens! And after Chu Feng spoke, the expressions of everyone on scene changed greatly. Their shocked state was simply indescribable with words. As Chu Feng was a part of the Azure Dragon School, the words he spoke were absolutely trustable. The strongest person 1,000 years ago in the continent of the 9 provinces was still alive. That news was really too astonishing. People could simply not accept that fact immediately, so everyone was dumbfounded. "Quickly retreat." Just at that time, the Ji dynasty's old ancestor suddenly yelled loudly. Then he turned around and speedily escaped afar. Damn it! At the same time, although the Liu dynasty's old ancestor was unwilling to, he hurriedly turned around and escaped towards the distance. Seeing that even the 2 old ancestors escaped, naturally, the experts from the 2 clans didn't dare to dally. All of them used their strongest bodily martial skills and quickly escaped, deeply afraid they would die by the hands of the terrifying Azure Dragon founder if they ran slow. Ho! Seeing the crowd of people who were left behind and escaping, the Azure Dragon founder only lightly smiled. Although he didn't chase after them, the killing intent in his eyes couldn't help becoming a bit stronger. The Azure Dragon founder wouldn't let them leave alive, but he was in no rush to chase after them. If he who had the secret skill, the Azure Dragon dashing technique, wanted to chase, not a single person from the 2 clans could escape his palm. Wait, but suddenly, the Azure Dragon founder's expression changed, because he discovered that of the troops of the 2 clans. No matter if it was the dynasty's clan members, or the world spirits brought by them, or the monstrous beasts, all of them already escaped. But there was a chariot pulled by several monstrous beasts that stopped in the air. On that chariot, there was a small-scale palace. He used his spirit power to examine it, but he discovered that there was a spirit formation laid outside of the palace, so the inside was undetectable. Moreover, the several monstrous beasts who pulled the chariot had sinister faces, and their bodies were twisted, but they could only stay where they were. On their bodies, purple-colored symbols and brilliance endlessly flashed. What it meant was that it wasn't that they didn't want to escape, but that they were unable to escape because on their bodies, a restriction spirit formation was added, binding them in the air. Senior Azure Dragon, something's off with that chariot. At the same time, the monstrous Monkey King also discovered the inklings. Ha 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 ha. Just at that moment, a burst of mad laughter suddenly rang out from the distance. The sound was deafening, and simply like the claps of thunder. It was the laughter of the Ji dynasty's old ancestor. He laughed extremely strangely, extremely insanely. Only after laughing for a good while did he say, "I never would have thought that the Grand Azure Dragon founder would still be living. This truly causes one to be astonished. But sadly, with my secret weapon here, even if you have overwhelming battle power, you are fated to not avoid death. Senior Azure Dragon, that old thing is truly looking to die. Why not go give him a lesson right now?" Hearing the mad, loud laughter coming from the Ji dynasty's old ancestor afar, the monstrous Monkey King was the first to be unable to accept it. He knew that if the Azure Dragon founder wanted to kill the Ji dynasty's old ancestor, it was only a matter of flicking his finger. So that was why he asked the Azure Dragon founder to make his move. Wait, that chariot is too strange. However, the Azure Dragon founder didn't pay attention to the Ji dynasty's old ancestor who was escaping, but locked his gaze dead on the chariot. And after hearing his words, everyone noticed the chariot that stopped in midair, and couldn't help locking their gazes onto the small-scale palace above the chariot as well. Asterisk Creek ~~~ asterisk finally, the door to the small-scale palace opened. At that instant, everyone's heartbeat couldn't help racing a bit faster, and their gazes also became extremely serious. However, what they didn't expect was that after the palace door was opened, it was actually an old man who walked out. That old man's age was too high. If he wasn't 80, he was 90, but his cultivation wasn't too strong, being only in the first level of the heaven realm. However, after the old man walked out, only then did everyone discover that he was pulling a person out with his hand. It was a middle-aged man. The man wore gorgeous clothing and had a large stature. Black hair went straight to his heel, fluttered with the wind, and he was elegant and unordinary. Moreover, his thick brows and big eyes looked very handsome and brave. However, a middle-aged man like him who had such an unordinary appearance didn't have the slightest bit of cultivation. Not only did he not have cultivation, even his mental state didn't seem to be too clear. At that moment, despite already walking in front of the chariot, he didn't even look straight at the crowd. With dull eyes and a face filled with an idiotic smile, he munched the 2 roasted chicken in his hands. He ate like a wolf swallowing and tiger gulping, and was in extreme joy, as if he hadn't eaten in 100 years. This isn't it right? What kind of joke is this? Just an old man like him and an idiot is his so-called secret weapon. Indeed, it was just for scaring people. The Ji dynasty's old ancestor is truly funny. Ha ha ha. When they carefully examined the 2 people at the front of the chariot, their originally tense hearts all calmed. Moreover, they started to loudly laugh mockingly, because from them, it could be said that they didn't feel the slightest bit of threat. The old man was only in the first level of the heaven realm. Too many people on scene could easily kill him. As for the middle-aged man, although he had an unordinary and handsome appearance, he was clearly an idiot. Furthermore, an idiot without cultivation, so most people didn't put the 2 of them in their eyes. That person looks very familiar. However, as the crowd relaxed, Chu Feng became even more uneasy. Because, when the 2 of them appeared, Chu Feng concentration fully onto the middle-aged man. For some reason, he felt that the man was a bit familiar, yet he couldn't remember where he saw him. At the same time, the Azure Dragon founder also carefully examined the middle-aged man. Although he didn't discover any inklings, his gaze was also filled with alert, always feeling that the middle-aged man was not simple. Suddenly, the old man made his move. He didn't attack the people from the Jiang dynasty, but extended his hand towards the middle-aged man next to him, and used his hand to brush the long hair on his forehead to the side. This is bad. Ancestor, quickly stop that old man. Do not let him touch his forehead. At that instant, Chu Feng's pupils shrunk. His face changed greatly, and he hurriedly loudly yelled, because when the middle-aged man's long hair above his forehead was pushed to the side, Chu Feng understood everything. On the forehead of the man he saw a scar that was vivid, lifelike, and like flames. Chu Feng had seen that scar before. He had seen it on the forehead of a beggar, and back then, Chu Feng almost got killed because he touched the scar on the beggar's forehead. At that instant, Chu Feng finally knew why the man looked so familiar. It was because he was the beggar from back then, the man who carried Chu Feng to the Chu family and instructed Chu Yuan, telling him that he must raise Chu Feng. Chu Feng always wanted to see him again, because even though he knew that his mind was muddled, after all, he was his only hope in knowing where he came from. But currently, seeing him again, Chu Feng did not feel any joy. What he had was only endless fear, because he knew how terrifying that man was after being enraged. If he truly exploded, it was likely that the entire Jiang dynasty would be flattened by him. Stop. Although he didn't know why Chu Feng was that nervous, the Azure Dragon founder still felt that something was wrong, so he explosively yelled, flicked his fly whisk, and instantly berserk power engulfed outwards. With light-like speed, it pressed towards the old man and the middle-aged man. The Azure Dragon founder's strike was not only for stopping the old man's action, it was to completely destroy the old man and the middle-aged man, including the chariot. Asterisk boom asterisk, it had to be said that the Azure Dragon founder's strength was indeed very powerful. Almost in the moment the old man's palm was going to touch the man's forehead scar, his attack arrived. After the deafening explosion, the area that the chariot was at instantly became chaos. Layers and layers of wild ripples kept on surging everywhere. Not only did it cause more and more cracks to form in the air, even the continuous structures on the ground were shattered from the shock. The Azure Dragon founder's strike was too fierce, and even some people from the Jiang dynasty were dragged in by that, dying within. But that more greatly showed the Azure Dragon founder's nervousness. He did indeed feel danger from the middle-aged man, and was also aware that the old man's action was dangerous. So that was why he didn't restrain himself on that strike and harmed some innocent people, because in the instant just now, he only wanted to stop the old man's action and remove two uneasy, hidden troubles. He simply didn't consider the safety of the people underneath the chariot. Asterisk uao tilde asterisk. But just as the layers of ripples were spreading, suddenly, a wild hurricane swept over. The hurricane was really too intense. It actually engulfed the horrifying ripple instantly, and very quickly, the hurricane also disappeared. At that instant, the almost shattered sky returned to silence once again. Simultaneously, a figure also came into view, appearing in the crowd's line of sight. At that instant, the middle-aged man stood on air. His long hair fluttered, and his eyes no longer had their lifelessness from before. Replacing them were two endlessly rising flames of fury. The eyes that were filled with flames of fury were really too terrifying. So terrifying that with a single glance, from deep inside one's heart, strong fear spread outwards, engulfing their entire body. Crap! Although his strike successfully killed the old man, and even left nothing behind from killing the several monstrous beasts and the chariot, it also thoroughly stirred up this person's anger. At that instant, Chu Feng tightly frowned because he had seen how horrifying that person was in his mad times, and he had also heard from Chu Yuan how horrifying the strength that person grasped was. That very instant was when his strength was fully shown. In his psychotic state, they were likely going to be facing a disaster. Ancestor, can you defeat this person? Seeing that the middle-aged man already had overflowing fury and was very possibly going to start massacring soon, Chu Feng could only cast his gaze towards the Azure Dragon founder above him. After all, in a moment like this, the Azure Dragon founder was the only existence able to fight against the middle-aged man. But the Azure Dragon founder at that moment was staring at the middle-aged man with tightly knitted brows. At the end, he helplessly said, "The strength of this person is unfathomably deep. I am absolutely unable to defeat him." What? Even the Azure Dragon founder is unable to defeat him? How is that possible? If he's even stronger than the Azure Dragon founder, what realm is he in? Could it be this person is a martial lord expert? And after hearing the Azure Dragon founder's words, the people on scene had faces full of fear and were endlessly afraid. Even though they felt terrifying danger from the middle-aged man, he did not emanate any shocking might. So, in a situation where they were with the Azure Dragon founder, even though they were afraid, they were not too worried. But at that instant, when the Azure Dragon founder said that even he wasn't able to defeat the man, they became completely afraid. If even the Azure Dragon founder wasn't able to defeat him, wouldn't a disaster truly head their way today? Asterisk hue tilde asterisk. Suddenly, an ear-piercing howl rang out in the sky. However, it wasn't a howl but the sound of wind. In the sky, with the middle-aged man as the core, layers of frenzied wind power became pale white berserk gas. They crossed over one another, surrounded the man, and endlessly swirled. When the wind power appeared, the sky sank into chaos. The air disintegrated, everything went pitch dark, and what could be seen was only the crazy wind, and the man inside the crazy wind. At that very instant, the man's robe swayed left and right. His hair fluttered everywhere. His eyes sprayed fire as he looked down at the ground. Finally, he spoke. His voice was loud and clear, and every single word was like thunder as he fiercely shouted, "Those who follow me, I grant riches and power. Those who go against me, kill, kill, kill. Kill tilde. After the last word resounded, the world instantly shook. The sky collapsed, and the originally clear sky and bright day immediately became chaotic. At that instant, the sky became blurry. The only thing that could be seen was the middle-aged man in the air, and the only thing that could be felt was endless killing intent. Heavens, how can there be such a terrifying person in this world? Is this even the power of a man? This person is too horrifying. Who in the world is he? Seeing everything that was happening in front of their eyes, everyone's panic rose to the peak. With a raise of a hand, the sky was changed and the earth was swapped. When had they ever seen such power? It simply surpassed their range of understanding, surpassed the limits of humanity. It was already not something humans could do, and he seemed more like a god. Although the middle-aged man didn't start massacring, everyone's despair reached the extreme because they knew if that person wanted to kill them, they absolutely had no chance of escaping. Even the world could be destroyed by him, let alone them petty living organisms. The strength of this person does not belong in the martial lord realm. He should be a martial king. I never would have thought soon after I revived I would meet such an exceptional expert. I have no regrets before dying. At that instant, the Azure Dragon founder's tightly furrowed brows suddenly relaxed, and replacing it was a hint of relief. He had felt the strong power of the middle-aged man, so powerful that even he was powerless to fight against him, because in front of that man, even if it was him, he was as puny as an ant. Even a casual breath from him could turn him into dust. The man stood on air, and was like a king who ruled the world, and their lives were also grasped within the hands of that king. This will not do. I can't die just like this. I can't die by his hands, and even more so, I can't let these people die by his hands. At that instant, Chu Feng also felt the threat of death, but he was unwilling to die. So he leaped and actually flew towards the middle-aged man. Chu Feng, what are you doing? Quickly come back. Although the world was already muddled, many people unseen spread their spirit power out, so they were able to feel Chu Feng currently flying towards the middle-aged man. To Chu Feng's actions, everyone broke out in a cold sweat for him because that man was really too horrifying. By flying over like that, wasn't Chu Feng looking to die? But they thought back at the words the man said, and looking at the situation around them, they were at ease again. Since death was to both the left and right, why did they need to worry? And just at that moment, Chu Feng already flew high into the air. He was less than 1,000 meters away from him, but he had the wild wind as protection, so Chu Feng had no way of approaching. So Chu Feng yelled his throat out and hysterically howled, "I am Chu Feng. You want to kill me?" Chu Feng was wagering his life because he knew that the man seemed to have the mission of protecting him, and associating it with the scene when he first met the man. Chu Feng firmly believed that he still had a trace of reason, so perhaps his name, his appearance could awaken that trace of reason. Chu Feng, who's Chu Feng? And who are you? After hearing Chu Feng's words, the middle-aged man's expression actually went blank. Then quickly after, he cast his gaze towards Chu Feng. What? You don't even recognize me? You've forgotten your duty. Could it be that you've forgotten your mission? Seeing that he was looking at himself, Chu Feng put on an act of being extremely domineering, like he could not be compared to anyone, and as if he was the master of that man. It's you. However, what made Chu Feng rejoice surprisingly was after he saw Chu Feng's appearance. His eyes that originally spat fire actually became incomparable terrified immediately. His body, which was filled with killing intent, was actually trembling. In merely an instant, the chaotic world started to change. It soon returned to its former bright day, and at that instant, everyone could clearly see everything in front of them. What is happening? Seeing the situation in the air, everyone couldn't help but be shocked, because they astonishedly discovered that Chu Feng was approaching the male one step at a time. The man who previously even had an unordinary atmosphere was actually half kneeling in the air currently. He hugged his head with both of his hands and muttered to himself, as if he was very afraid of Chu Feng. "No, don't kill me. No matter what you want me to do, I will agree. Don't kill me." The man was first hugging his head and muttering to himself, but after he discovered Chu Feng came near, he actually started to kowtow with his hands clasped and held forward in front of him. At that instant, The already endlessly shocked people were thoroughly stupefied. What exactly was the damn situation? The expert, who was so strong he could change the heavens and earth, was actually begging for forgiveness from Chu Feng. Is it possible that this man knows Chu Feng? At that moment, the eyes of the Azure Dragon founder, the Jiang dynasty's emperor, and the others all lit up. They thought about the words Chu Feng said before. Then, looking back at the man's current reaction, they could only think of one conclusion. It was that the man, who was so godlike powerful, definitely knew Chu Feng. At that very instant, the several tens of thousands of Jiang dynasty members observed with raised eyes, looking at the scene in the sky. All of them were dumbstruck. Their eyes were widened, their tongues were tied, and on all their faces, all sorts of stunned expressions were clearly shown. Chu Feng knew that horrifying man. What relationship did the two of them have? Looking at the man's appearance, he seemed to be afraid of Chu Feng. Did the man reach the extremities of insanity? Or were there truly some things hidden from sight? People kept on imagining all kinds of circumstances, but no matter what they guessed, they could not be sure of their relationship. So they could only stare at the two people in the air, because over there, perhaps they would obtain the answer they desired. Forgive me, I know my wrongs. I shouldn't have intruded into your territory. I shouldn't have disturbed your peace. I'm begging you, give me one more chance. Please let me live. No matter what you want me to do, I will agree. The middle-aged man with horrifying strength half knelt in the air and endlessly kowtowed to Chu Feng. Occasionally, he would secretly shoot Chu Feng a glance, but every time after seeing Chu Feng, his expression would become even more fearful, and even his body would start trembling. Seeing that, Chu Feng was endlessly shocked. Since he wasn't an idiot, linking it to the things Chu Yuan told him regarding this man, and looking back at his current appearance, Chu Feng already guessed the gist of it. That man shouldn't be a member of his family. He should have done something wrong or offended some person, and that person had the strength to kill the man and had the spirit to make him fear. But he didn't kill him. He should have gave him a chance to continue living, and that chance was a mission, to protect Chu Feng. As for who that person was, in Chu Feng's current heart, naturally he had an idea. If his guess held, then that person would definitely be his father, because when that man saw Chu Feng's appearance and became so scared, it meant that it wasn't Chu Feng he feared, but a person who looked similar to Chu Feng, and the person who looked similar to Chu Feng could only be Chu Feng's biological father. But at present, Chu Feng didn't have time to think that much. What he wanted to do the most was to grab onto the terrifying man's weakness. He had to control him. Do you remember the mission I gave you? Suddenly, Chu Feng asked. Mission. Hearing those words, the man was first taken aback, then quickly after hurriedly nodded and said, I remember. You wanted me to protect a child. What is that child called? Chu Feng closely asked. Called what? Cold. The man's expression glittered and he flustered a bit, but after thinking for a while, his complexion was finally like pushing away the clouds in the sky, turned from panic to joy and said, Called Chu Feng. You said that this child must be called Chu Feng and could not be called any other name. Then, have you always protected this child? Chu Feng continued asking closely. I. Hearing those words, the man completely panicked. Incomparable fear emerged instantly on his face that just turned to joy. He quickly kowtowed to Chu Feng once again and begged, Have mercy, have mercy. HMPH, you actually dare to be so undutiful to the mission my father gave you. Are you not afraid that he will be angered and kill you? Chu Feng coldly shouted. He was abnormally domineering, as if the horrifying man in front of his eyes was truly his own servant. Father, you are. Hearing those words, the fear on the man's face eased slightly, but the gaze he looked at Chu Feng with was still full of fright. I am Chu Feng, the person you should be protecting. But you are really too irresponsible. Not only did you not follow your promise by staying by my side and protecting me, you even helped my enemy to attack me. Chu Feng fiercely shouted, Enemy? Where? I will kill him, kill him. Hearing the word enemy, two lumps of flames instantly appeared again within the middle-aged man's eyes. The horrifying killing intent from before re-emerged, but this time, It was clearly not directed at Chu Feng and the others. "Carry me forward. I will bring you to slaughter them," Chu Feng said with a commanding tone. "As you wish." And to Chu Feng's words, not only did the terrifying man not disobey in the slightest, rather, he was incomparably revering. As he spoke, he willed. A layer of dazzling, golden radiance appeared on his forehead. Then instantly, it enveloped Chu Feng. And after it enveloped Chu Feng, the golden radiance changed for a while and actually became a golden chair. The chair was extremely delicate. There were even pictures of dragons and phoenixes engraved on it, and they were very beautiful. The most important thing was that the golden radiance emitted a feeling of indestructibility. It was a spirit formation. "Gold Cloak World Spiritist," Chu Feng hiddenly sighed in surprise. He only knew that the man's battle power was horrifying, but he didn't expect that he was also a world spiritist, and even a gold cloak world spiritist. To be able to casually condense such a delicate chair with spirit formation power, it could be seen how strong he grasped that ability. Moreover, he even did that in a muddled state. If his mind was clear, Chu Feng truly didn't dare to imagine how terrifying he would be at that time. "Listen to my order, head south." But sighing in surprise was sighing in surprise. Chu Feng still had to act out an appearance of being the master. He sat on the golden dazzling chair and pointed towards the direction where the Ji dynasty's old ancestors and the others left at. "As you wish." After Chu Feng gave the command, the man didn't delay as well. As he spoke, he turned around and like light flew towards the southern horizon. So quick. At that instant, Chu Feng only felt the scenery around him become a blur, as he was currently flying speedily past his surroundings. He had to focus on everything that blurred past him in order to clearly see everything in front, in order to determine the direction. At the same time, south of the Jiang dynasty, the Ji dynasty's old ancestor and the Liu dynasty's old ancestor were leading the troops from the two clans and flying in the air. After a while of flying, they had already passed several plains, several forests, and several mountain ranges. "That's almost good." Analyzing the distance he flew, the Ji dynasty's old ancestor suddenly stopped, then loudly said, "Stop." And with his order, the people from the two clans also stopped their movement in turn and stopped in mid-air. "What is that secret weapon? Even we need to escape this far?" The Liu dynasty's old ancestor asked puzzledly. He was really curious what exactly the secret weapon was. "This weapon is not simple. You should have heard of the natural disaster that occurred a while ago in the Morning Han continent, right?" The Ji dynasty's old ancestor smilingly asked. "You're talking about the huge fire that came from the sky and covered many mountain ranges." Mentioning that matter, the gaze of the Liu dynasty's old ancestor instantly changed, and his expression became odd. It was because he knew a lot about that matter. He knew that in the Morning Han continent, which the Ji dynasty ruled, there were 3 powerful sects stationed within its vastest mountain range. However, recently, an abnormal huge fire suddenly appeared in that vast mountain range. Everyone from the 3 sects died. The most important thing was that the huge fire didn't burn off of the trees in the forests, because, to powerful cultivators, it was very difficult for normal flames to harm them. Yet not only did the huge fire kill all life within the mountain range, it was even still burning currently. That area already became a forbidden area, and no one could step in because those who neared the flames, no matter how powerful their cultivation was, would get completely melted regardless. So that horrifying huge fire was seen as a natural disaster. And seeing the Liu dynasty old ancestor's strange expression, the Ji dynasty's old ancestor smugly smiled and said, "My secret weapon is that natural disaster's creator." "Natural disaster creator? What do you mean?" Hearing those words, everyone was shocked. "Ho, it also means that the natural disaster was not a coincidence. Furthermore, the creator of the natural disaster will recreate it within the Jiang dynasty right now." The Ji dynasty's old ancestor said, "Recreating a natural disaster? What is going on? Could it be that the natural disaster was man-made, and the person who made the natural disaster was inside the chariot. The Liu dynasty's old ancestor guessed the answer, but that answer really made one too stunned. So stunned that even he didn't dare to believe it was true. That's right, you've guessed correctly. Facing the glittering gaze of the Liu dynasty's old ancestor, the Ji dynasty's old ancestor pleasantly smiled. How is this possible? If there is truly such a powerful existence, then he is definitely a character in the martial lord realm. How can a character like him listen to your orders? The Liu dynasty's old ancestor expressed doubt. Haha, you don't need to worry about that. You only need to know that he is invincible in this world. And moreover, he will be used by me. This Jiang dynasty is only the first testing ground, but it is absolutely not the last. As long as he is here, my Ji dynasty will be peerless in the world, and everything else will be obliterated, starting with the nearby few continents. Then I will take over the tens of thousands of continents. At the end, I will finish at my ancestors' dreams, killing my way back into the Eastern Sea region. At that time, not only will my Ji dynasty be the ruler of the Morning Han continent, it will also be the ruler of the Eastern Sea region, the entire eastern section. Ha ha ha. When the Ji dynasty's old ancestor reached an exciting part, he actually faced the sky and longly howled. He laughed loudly and insanely, and greed permeated throughout his smile. It had to be said that his laughter and his previous words didn't lightly frighten the Liu dynasty's old ancestor. After thinking for a while, he cautiously asked, "Your next goal wouldn't be my Liu dynasty, right?" "Don't worry, we are allies of many years. Not only you and me, my father's generation, my grandfather's generation, we were even allies then. So, I won't touch your Liu dynasty. However, your Liu dynasty must be loyal to me." Seeing the Liu dynasty's old ancestor who had an unstable expression, the Ji dynasty's old ancestor sinisterly smiled, and at that instant, the corners of the Liu dynasty's old ancestor twitched. He understood his meaning. He was not going to touch the Liu dynasty, but the precondition was that his Liu dynasty had to serve his Ji dynasty. Asterisk rumble 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 asterisk. But just at that time, strange sounds suddenly came from the distant sky. That sound was like thunder, like the roar of tigers, like the surging tides, yet also like the howl of 10,000 beasts. At that instant, everyone panicked because that sound got louder and louder. In only an instant, it filled with surroundings of the people from the two clans. The sky and the earth trembled, as if the world was going to collapse. Crap, what exactly is this thing? As they panicked, their first thought was to escape, but it was useless since it was too late. As they wanted to make their move, they discovered that their bodies were as though they were frozen. Other being able to open their mouths to speak, they couldn't even tremble their fingers. Asterisk asterisk suddenly, the radiance in front of the crowd flashed, and a violent gust of wind slammed into them head-on. It caused their long hair to flutter, and their mouths to twist and change shape from the wind. And when everything stopped, all of their faces couldn't help but change because in front of them, a huge figure appeared. It was a middle-aged man. He had black hair that went straight to his heels. He stood on air and had might akin to that of a killing god. But at that instant, what made the crowd most scared wasn't the man, but the huge golden light above the man on his head. Within the golden light, there was a golden chair. On the golden chair, there sat a young man. The young man currently stared at the crowd with a light smile on his face, as his eyes were slightly squinting. And he was exactly Chu Feng. It's him, it's actually him. But compared to the crowd, the Ji dynasty's old ancestor trembled as he stared at the black-haired man, because he knew that the current atmosphere, which even caused the world to collapse from the pressure, wasn't emanated by Chu Feng but from the middle-aged man. "What's the matter? Do you recognize him?" The Liu dynasty's old ancestor also discovered that something was wrong and hurriedly asked. He's the natural disaster's creator." The Ji dynasty's old ancestor said those words with his trembling tone. "What? You said that he's that secret weapon of yours?" At that instant, The face of the Liu dynasty's old ancestor greened, because he had once personally went to the Morning Han continent. He personally saw the huge mountains that were covered by flames, and even with his cultivation, he was unable to approach it, so he deeply knew of the terror of the flames. Yet right now, the man in front of him was actually the creator of the flames. How could he not be afraid? Especially when he saw that above him there was even Chu Feng. Was it possible that the horrifying man was related to Chu Feng? And just as everyone endlessly guessed, all hoping that the man wasn't related to Chu Feng at all, the horrifying man suddenly spoke and asked with an extremely petty tone, "Young master, is your enemy them?" "What, young master?" This Chu Feng is actually the young master of this horrifying man. Does this mean that he's Chu Feng's servant? Heavens, where exactly did that Chu Feng come from? He actually has such a terrifying servant. Hearing those words, the crowd felt their brains buzz and felt thunder banging against their heads, because to them, absolutely, it was a frightening nightmare. Look at what you've done. You've actually brought such a terrifying guy here. Did you bring him here to kill us all? The Liu dynasty's old ancestor loudly cursed at the Ji dynasty's old ancestor who was next to him. Wait, his mind is unclear and he originally had problems, so that's why I was able to control him. This Chu Feng has many cunning plans. He must have used some trick in order for the man to listen to him. But do not fear. I have a method that can perhaps control him again. The Ji dynasty's old ancestor first sent a mental message to explain, then said to the horrifying man, "Idiot, don't even think of listening to that brat's lies. I'm your master. How can you help my enemy and attack me?" At that instant, the Ji dynasty's old ancestor was totally speaking lies with his eyes wide open. He simply did not know how to completely control the horrifying man. But he did not believe he would be related to Chu Feng. And after hearing how the horrifying man called Chu Feng, he randomly assumed and thought Chu Feng disturbed the man's awareness while his mind was muddled, tricking him and causing him to think that his master was Chu Feng. The reason why he said those words was because he wanted to be like a blind cat killing a mouse, to trick that man back and fight for a chance of survival. In fact, if there's one idiot, there's a group of idiots. After the Ji dynasty's old ancestor said those words, the expressions of the people from the two clans turned to joy, and even thought he truly controlled the horrifying man, and that he would give them a strand of chance to survive. However, in the next instant they were thoroughly stupefied. "These people kill them all," Chu Feng indifferently said. "As you wish." Hearing Chu Feng's words, the horrifying man's face instantly turned cold as the flames in his eyes slightly flickered. With a boom, that land became occupied by rolling flames, like hell in the human realm. The raging, intense flames were like fierce beasts. They covered the sky and the ground at that area, and burned without restraint. In only an instant, the people from the two clans were consumed by the flames. They melted, were burnt into ashes, and there wasn't even any residue left behind. So powerful, the horrifying oceans of fires were indeed left behind by him. Looking at the endlessly changing intense flames rolling and surging around him, Chu Feng muttered to himself. Although he was inside the golden spirit formation and could not be affected by the flames at all, just by looking at the atmosphere, he could see how horrifying the flames were, and flames like those made him think of the two oceans of fire in the Azure province. One was in the desolate desert, the other was at the Plum Flower School. The oceans of fire at both places were extremely terrifying. Cultivators were unable to approach them, and they were both viewed as forbidden areas. At that time, Chu Feng had suspected if those horrifying oceans of fire were man-made. Was it possible they were created by this terrifying man? Back then he only guessed, but today he confirmed that fact. Xianxia, a waste, simply too wasteful, so many heaven realms source energy, and there are even two in the 9th level of the heaven realm. Yet they died just like that. At least leave a complete corpse for me to refine all the source energy. However, just at that time, Eggy skipped and jumped while loudly yelling with a face full of sorrow. Although currently, Source energy in the heaven realm might not allow her to make more breakthroughs to her. They were still extremely enticing. Facing that situation, Chu Feng could only bitterly smile. Although the terrifying man listened to his words up until now, after all, his mind was confused. Chu Feng could not control many things, for example, the power of his attacks. But at present, to Chu Feng, he wasn't too concerned about those small losses. He felt that as long as he could continue to control that man, he would be satisfied. It was because the Azure Dragon founder said that he possibly wasn't a martial lord, but a martial king. As long as he imagined having a martial king expert as a henchman next to him, it made Chu Feng have a feeling of safety that he never had before. These flames are too terrifying and they will harm the innocent. Are you able to retract them? Chu Feng asked the man. The raging flames of the burning heaven comes from my body. They are born as I desire and extinguished as I desire. If I want them gone, naturally they will be gone. The terrifying man's gaze flashed, and the flames around him were like tide as they surged towards his body. With only a blink, the horrifying flames actually all disappeared. But looking back at the ground, it was already made into a mess. The earth was pitch black, giving out steaming heat, and even the air twisted. After that, Chu Feng was not in a rush to bring the man back to the Jiang dynasty, since the imminent danger was dissolved anyway, and the monstrous Monkey King and the Azure Dragon founder were there to hold the fort. On the Jiang dynasty's side, no accident should happen, and because of the unstable factor of the man, Chu Feng needed to further control and understand him. So, with special methods, Chu Feng started to question the man. He wanted to more deeply understand man in order to better know himself, but for some unknown reason, the man's awareness was very muddled. It was as if his memory was being bound by someone, and actually didn't know what he himself was called, nor did he know where he came from, let alone know who Chu Feng's father was and where Chu Feng came from. He only remembered some fragmented sections, and he roped those sections together, which formed a mission. He had to protect Chu Feng. If something bad were to happen to him, a disaster would come his own way. When Chu Feng deeply questioned, the man acted as if he felt extreme horror and actually started to spur out nonsense. Moreover, he lost his current terrifying cultivation and returned to his insane and stupid state, and simply did not recognize Chu Feng. At first, Chu Feng was a bit worried, but he did not panic since he seemed to gradually grasp the method to make him recover his strength. That method was to make a move on his forehead scar. That place was his weak spot. As long as he touched that place, the man would recover his strength. And the reality was indeed like so. When Chu Feng grasped what was appropriate, and after touching the scar on the man's forehead, he actually recovered his strength. Moreover, he was incomparably furious and forgot who Chu Feng was again. But luckily, Chu Feng grasped the man's current weak spot. Very quickly, he made the man submissive to himself again. But the thing Chu Feng could do nothing about was every time he asked a question deeply regarding his own father, he would sink into extreme fear again. So Chu Feng just flat out stopped asking. He knew that with the man's current state, he could absolutely not rush things through if he wanted to know about his identity. He should slowly advance and understand the man bit by bit. Only understanding a lot about him could he awaken his memories, and after feeling that he could thoroughly control the man, or at least prevent him from going on a rampage by killing innocents, Chu Feng brought him back to the Jiang dynasty. Currently, the people from the Jiang dynasty were still submerged within fearful hearts and extreme uneasiness. It was because everything that happened before was simply like a dream. It made them feel that everything was so unrealistic, especially when they recalled that such a horrifying, powerful person appeared in the continent of the 9 provinces, and that he also followed every word Chu Feng said, as if he was Chu Feng's servant. As long as they recalled that, even up until now, they still felt disbelief. And it was exactly that disbelief that made them unable to be sure whether the danger was truly gone or not. So at that very instant, they were waiting for a person, and it was Chu Feng. It was because Chu Feng already became a crucial character, regarding their Jiang dynasty's survival. Chu Feng was able to bring them the answer of whether the danger was dissolved or not. Look, Chu Feng has come back. That's true, Chu Feng has returned. My lord Chu Feng has returned. Suddenly, someone pointed to the south and loudly yelled, being incomparably excited. At that instant, those who were in the heaven realm all rose into the sky and cast their gazes towards the south. After seeing Chu Feng really bring a blank-faced man back and was speedily returning, they couldn't help but rejoice. Chu Feng, how is it? Chu Feng, where's the Ji dynasty and Liu dynasty? Have you caught up to them? The Jiang dynasty's emperor, as well as a group of experts such as Jiang Hengyuan, welcomed him first. Seeing their nervous expressions, Chu Feng lightly smiled, then said, "The Ji dynasty's old ancestor, the Liu dynasty's old ancestor, as well as their people who entered the continent of the 9 provinces, have eternally disappeared from this world. The great enemy of the 9 provinces has been eradicated. Chu Feng, are your words true?" At that instant, the crowd of the Jiang dynasty were all surprisedly joyed, but they also slightly didn't dare to believe it. Absolutely true. Chu Feng firmly nodded his head. This is great, this is great, this is really great. At that instant, a hint of relief, as well as indescribable excitement, emerged onto the face of the Jiang dynasty's emperor. Moreover, he continuously said 3 greats, because he could really not control himself from the excitement. And other than him, almost everyone else on scene was the same. Wu tilde tilde tilde. Suddenly, thunder-like cheers came from the Jiang dynasty. Many young people in the Jiang dynasty, and even some middle-aged people, excitedly cheered. They were really too moved. When a person was in a realm of absolute death and thought they would undoubtedly die, yet discovered that they weren't dead and also wouldn't die, that feeling was simply as if they were reborn. It was truly hard to not be moved by that, and there were even some people whose faces were full of tears from emotion as they loudly sobbed. At the same time they cheered, many people didn't forget casting their gazes to the sky, looking at their emperor, many lords, as well as the smiling and chatting young man. Although they didn't say it in their hearts, they already deeply remembered that young man. It was he who saved their Jiang dynasty. I never would have thought that the person who saved my Jiang dynasty at the end would truly be him. Jiang Yini looked at Chu Feng, who was chatting with her father in the air. Her pair of beautiful eyes unendingly glittered, full of unspeakable emotions. And other than Jiang Yini, many people in the Jiang dynasty's young generation had very clear emotions. Not only were they grateful to Chu Feng, they admired him. Even for some young females, their beautiful eyes showed some of their hearts being moved. They already thoroughly admired Chu Feng because of his outstanding appearance, but they could only hide those thoughts at the bottom of their hearts because they had personally seen Chu Feng's power. Even though they had unordinary births by having royal bloodlines, in front of such an excellent young man, it was hard to avoid feeling that they weren't sufficient themselves and felt that they weren't worthy of Chu Feng. So they had to turn their hearts feeling into pure admiration. Chu Feng, this time, it was truly all thanks to you. I express gratitude for everyone in my clan. Suddenly, the emperor of the Jiang dynasty bowed deeply to Chu Feng. Thank you, Chu Feng, for saving our Jiang dynasty. At the same time, all of the experts behind the Jiang dynasty's emperor directly half-knelt in the air and clasped their hands towards Chu Feng. Looking downwards, the several tens of thousands of Jiang clan members, no matter male, female, old, or young, actually all knelt down and expressed their thanks to Chu Feng with faces full of sincerity. If it was before, even if Chu Feng saved their Jiang dynasty with their pride, they would only thank Chu Feng, but would absolutely not kneel down to Chu Feng. But it was different now. Because of the exchanges between Chu Feng and the horrifying man, who they had personally seen and personally heard, they already roughly knew some things. Chu Feng's background was absolutely not as simple as it was on the surface. He should have an even stronger shield behind him. He had a powerful father, As for how powerful his father was, so powerful that the horrifying man who could destroy the heavens and the earth feared him extremely. Facing Chu Feng, who had such support, they didn't dare to be disrespectful. "Ah, my lord, don't say it like that. Seniors, please quickly rise." Seeing that, Chu Feng felt a bit embarrassed, so he hurriedly went up to stop them, and then said to the Jiang dynasty's emperor, "I, Chu Feng, am a person from the continent of the 9 provinces. Helping the 9 provinces drive away enemies is originally a part of my duty. Besides, I have a good relationship with your son and daughter. Regardless, it's something that I should do." Facing Chu Feng, who was like that, the Jiang dynasty's emperor no longer remained overly courteous and invited Chu Feng, the Azure Dragon founder, and the others into the Jiang dynasty's still existing vast palaces for resting. The danger to the Jiang dynasty also dissolved just like that, and Chu Feng also became the hero who saved the Jiang dynasty. But things didn't end just like that. After dissolving the danger, the Jiang dynasty's emperor hurriedly called all the experts to an area and started an emergency meeting. Not only were the Jiang dynasty's peak experts in that meeting, there was also the Azure Dragon founder, the monstrous Monkey King, as well as Chu Feng and even the mysterious man. However, that mysterious man could no longer be described with terrifying right now, because currently he was sitting by Chu Feng's side, and with large bites, he was munching pig feet and eating mutton. At that instant, he wasn't even close to being horrifying. Even if you hit his face, he wouldn't even pay attention to you. So describing him as mad and foodie would fit more closely. Senior Azure Dragon Chu Feng, the Liu clan, Jai clan, and Zhao clan can be said to have moved their strongest forces to attack my Jiang dynasty. Right now, their battle power is already near destroyed, so it means that the 3 dynasties are like empty cities right now, and will break with a single attack. Speaking honestly, I am not interested in the continents their 3 clans control, but their 3 clans have come to the east of this world at the same time as my Jiang clan. In these several thousand years, they should have accumulated quite a bit of wealth. If the 3 clans' wealth all gets sold, it is not hard for it to be turned into 300,000 heaven beads. I believe that everyone here is very interested in these 300,000 heaven beads. So we should take this chance, split up into 3 groups, attack the 3 dynasties, and take away the wealth in their clans. And I will say this in advance, since the reason why my Jiang dynasty has been able to survive this time is all due to Chu Feng. My Jiang dynasty will not have a single cent of the 3 clans' wealth. All of it can split between Chu Feng and Senior Azure Dragon. The emperor of the Jiang dynasty lightly smiled and said, "My lord, this isn't too good, right? After all this time, your Jiang dynasty has suffered greatly as well, so you need resources to reimburse your losses." Although Chu Feng was very moved by the 300,000 heaven beads, he really didn't feel good benefiting from them alone. Chu Feng is correct. We have the resources from the 3 clans for taking anyway. I can represent the Azure Dragon School to go to the Zhao dynasty. Chu Feng will go to the Ji dynasty, and your Jiang dynasty will go to the Liu dynasty. As for how much is obtained, that will depend on the heavens, but no matter how much is taken, it belongs to the collector. The Azure Dragon founder lightly smiled and said, "He is correct. I feel that we can follow his method." Chu Feng also expressed approval. Since it is like so, my Jiang dynasty is also willing to follow Senior Azure Dragon's suggestion. Hearing that, it wasn't really good for the emperor of the Jiang dynasty to push the suggestion away, so he could only nod his head. Quickly after, the Jiang dynasty led a group of people forward to the Liu dynasty. The Azure Dragon founder himself went forward to the Zhao dynasty. As for Chu Feng, he went with the mysterious man and headed towards the Ji dynasty. The goal of their journey was very simple. It wasn't to completely kill the 3 clans, but to seize all of their wealth. Without peak experts nor wealth and resources as support, it would be difficult for the 3 clans to rise in power. Without even needing Chu Feng and the others to attack, Other enemies would throw stones down the well and completely eradicate them, and everything was exactly how the Jiang dynasty's emperor predicted. The three clans sent out their peak experts for the attack, and the three clans were already like empty cities. Although they had powerful protection formations, without the support of powerful experts, the formation was the same as void, and were easily destroyed by the troops from the three sides. As for the three clans' wealth, as they could not even guard their dynasties, how could they guard their wealth? Naturally, they were all easily plundered. It had to be said that despite the continent of the 9 provinces losing quite a few powerful people, the wealth they looted from the three clans was enough to recompense for everything.